My dad was worried I'd never get married, so he got the beautiful niece of his old comrade drunk, and after everything was already done, he used emotional blackmail to force the marriage. But on our wedding night, I finally found out that Chen Muku already had someone else in her heart, married for 3 years. I never once got to experience what it felt like to be a husband. Even up until the moment I died alone, Chen Muku immediately moved to the capital with her dream guy. Now that I've been reborn for another life, I don't want to entangle myself with Chen Muku anymore. Furthermore, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to file for forced divorce. In 1 month, I can leave. Returning home, I finished cleaning the wardrobe and just finished cooking when Chen Muku came back. She has a tall figure and a delicate face. When she wears her military uniform, she is at her most majestic and imposing. Before marriage, she was the goddess of the male comrade's dreams in the military district. In my past life, that was also why I fell for her at first sight. To avoid being found out, I stepped forward to help her take off her coat, but Chen Muku took a step back instead. With an indifferent expression and a bit of dirt on her body, she said, "Don't get your hands dirty." Her words were so polite and respectful that they were absolutely flawless, yet so cold and distant. It was as if we weren't a couple who had been married for 3 years. If it were before, I would have definitely pretended not to hear it and would still reach out to adjust her collar. Chen Muku wouldn't reject me either, but deep within those deep eyes, a cold look of disgust would definitely appear. I was pierced to the heart by that exact look for 3 whole years, leaving a scar in my heart that could never heal. But this time, I only nodded and pulled my hand back, turning around to go into the kitchen and bring the food out. "I made the stir-fried eggs you like most. Try it and see if it suits your taste." Chen Muku took off her outer coat completely unmoved. "I already told you. I eat at the military cafeteria every night. You don't need to cook in the kitchen for me." It was the same in my past life for the past 3 years. She had never eaten a single bite of food I cooked. I froze for a moment, my voice calm but firm. "I really want you to try it. Just 1 bite, okay? After all, this is the first time, and also the last time. I want to put a final period to this myself." As soon as I finished speaking, I saw the hand hanging straight down by Chen Muku's side suddenly clenched tightly. But she said, "Understood," complying with the order. Hearing that, my heart tightened with a sharp pang. Chen Muku is the regimental commander of the 1st Regiment of the Northern Zen Military District, while I thought a civilian official hold a higher rank than Chen Muku. That's why in my past life, whenever I wanted Chen Muku to do something, she would always say, "Executing the order," just to make it crystal clear to me that she only did it because she had no choice, not out of love. Chen Muku indifferently brushed past me and sat down at the table. A faint scent from her body wafted into my nose. I paused and instinctively blurted out, "Did you go to see Langran again today?" No one knows better than me. This scent is the exact soap that the childhood sweetheart of Chen Muku, Langran, uses the most. The calm expression on Chen Muku's face instantly changed, her voice becoming even more bone-chillingly cold. "Did you have someone spy on me?" Looking at her sharp, piercing gaze, an indescribable sense of grief welled up inside my heart. The words I intended to say could no longer be spoken. After a long silence, I flatly said, "You've been tired all day, go to sleep early." Having said that, I walked toward the bedroom, not expecting Chen Muku to follow me inside. I couldn't help but wonder, "What are you doing?" Chen Muku's eyes showed a flash of mockery. "Today is the full moon. Didn't you say we should go to sleep early?" Only then did I remember that in my past life, Chen Muku didn't want to do marital duties with me. So I had no choice but to give an order to her and set that date on the full moon of every month. I clenched my fist behind my back. "We won't need to do that anymore in the future." Chen Muku was pushed away. She stood by the bed frowning. "You'd better not be playing hard to get." Leaving it at that, she turned around and walked out, heading into another room and closing the door. Ever since we got married, Chen Muku set up a bed in the study to sleep separately from me. In my past life, there was one time I went into her room in the middle of the night, and after that, she started locking the door. Hearing the click of the lock, I scoffed at myself with a self-deprecating smile. "Don't you worry, Chen Muku. I won't be that clueless anymore." I turned off the lights, tossed and turned, and finally fell asleep. The next morning, I was busy all session at the military district. At noon, a messenger came looking for me, saying that my dad had arrived. I went to the office and pushed the door open to walk in, only to find Chen Muku already standing inside. Dad didn't even bother to look up, saying, "Take a seat. How have you two been lately?" I glanced at Chen Muku. "Out of habit. We only report the good news, not the bad, Dad." "We're doing great." Dad suddenly looked up, his deep eyes staring straight toward Chen Muku. "But I heard that. Chen Muku, you've been frequently visiting a medic at the infirmary lately. Is that true?" Chen Muku's eyes flickered momentarily, and her hands hanging by her sides clenched tightly. The atmosphere in the office instantly turned ice cold and solemn. Chen Muku lowered her eyes, just about to speak, when she heard me chuckle and say, "I was the one who told her to go, Dad." Chen Muku froze, her eyes filled with shock as they locked onto me. My expression remained nonchalant. Comrade Lang. Ran's parents have both passed away, and he's still unmarried. Living alone isn't easy for him. So I asked Chen Muku to bring some things over there on my behalf. It was my lack of thorough consideration I didn't expect. It would cause such rumors and gossip to spread around. Dad remained silent for a moment. It wasn't clear whether he believed it or not. He gave. A grunt put down his pen, stood up and said, "Let's grab lunch together this noon." Walking to the cafeteria. Chen Muku gave me a very deep look, but I didn't look back at her. I just wanted to make sure that before the divorce, before my dad and I settle everything, no unnecessary complications would arise. No matter what happens between me and Chen Muku, it shouldn't affect my dad's reputation. Lunch ended in silence. In the afternoon, all three of us were busy with our own work. At dusk, I didn't go looking for Chen Muku like before anymore, alone. I left work and returned home. I started packing my things again. While standing in the living room, my gaze suddenly stopped on the TV stand. There were two porcelain dolls, one boy and one girl, making me daze out. I remember, those were bought when Chen Muku and I just got married. I still remember when they were first bought. I was so excited to show them to Chen Muku, like a treasure, but in return I only got a look full of disdain from her. "This stuff is only for kids to play with. Why did you buy it too?" Yet when Ran came back, Chen Muku actually took the initiative to buy an identical pair to give to Ran. I swallowed down the bitterness inside, threw the pair of dolls into a canvas bag, and then continued to toss in a few other unimportant items. After cleaning everything thoroughly from top to bottom, I lifted the featherlight bag in my hand, suddenly realizing that after being married to Chen Muku for 3 whole years, our shared items were actually pitifully few. Stepping out into the yard, I threw the whole bag of things into the trash truck. Just as I was about to turn back into the house, I heard a car engine turn off outside. Right after that, a familiar voice called out, and suddenly Chen Muku's cold voice rang out, "I can swear, I will never ever love him. Otherwise, I won't die a peaceful death." My face instantly turned pale as a ghost, but I just stood there quietly. Because in my past life, I had already witnessed with my own eyes how Chen Muku always yielded to Lang. Ran in everything, always pampering him to the absolute limit. Whenever Lang Ran was sad, Chen Muku would gently comfort him, and when Lang Ran was angry, Chen Muku would smile warmly to coax him, and when Lang ran a fever, Chen Muku would stay up all night to take care of him. That's why after being reborn for another life, I understand better than anyone that if it weren't for me, Chen Muku and Lang Ran would have already been together, becoming a beautiful legend living in perfect harmony and growing old together in this life. I won't play the villain and tear these lovebirds apart anymore. I turned around and sat down at the table, pouring myself a glass of white liquor, but I didn't expect that Chen Muku would return not long after. She didn't care about the glass of liquor in front of me at all, only, flatly speaking, "Since when did you pick up the habit of eavesdropping?" I didn't even bother to care about this sarcasm. To avoid starting an argument, slightly smirked. "Why did you have to make such a vicious oath?" Chen Muku's face remained expressionless. "Only when you break an oath do you get punished by heaven. This is the only way to prove that I will never love you." Even though I had already decided to let go. Hearing these words, I still felt like my chest was stabbed violently by a blade, followed by the metallic taste of blood welling up to my throat. I gripped the glass tightly for a long time, then raised my hand to down it in one gulp before saying, "Then that's good. This way, when the divorce procedures are finalized, and when I leave, Chen Muku won't feel heartbroken." Chen Muku frowned, sensing that I was acting a bit strange, but she didn't think too much about it, turning around to walk toward the bedroom. But when she saw the ocean blue shirt in the trash can, her footsteps froze. "Don't you like that shirt the most?" I didn't expect Chen Muku to remember it so clearly. I quietly looked at it, without too much emotion in my eyes, and casually lied, "I don't like it anymore," so I just threw it away. Chen Muku didn't ask anything further. Stepping inside the room, I also turned around to go back to my bedroom. I don't know how much time had passed, but outside, a light rain began to fall, along with the sound of the rain. Before long, I drifted off to sleep. Suddenly, a loud boom echoed as the sky was split by lightning and thunder, and I startled awake from the bed in terror. Both of my hands tightly gripped the collar of my shirt at my chest, breathing heavily. When I was 10 years old, it was on a stormy day, with thunder and lightning just like this, that my mother got into a car accident and passed away. From then on, I was terrified of thunder, getting jolted awake by it even in my dreams. After getting married, every time it thundered, I would always go look for Chen Muku, but that door was never once open for me. The thunder kept roaring in continuous waves, and only until half an hour later did the thunder finally stop completely. Only then did I gradually calm my trembling nerves. I turned on the light, wanting to go pour a glass of water to drink. Passing through the living room, I only took a brief glance before turning around to head back. Returning to the bedroom, even I myself was surprised. My mind was strangely as calm as still water. Perhaps I really have just gotten used to it. But after lying down, there wasn't a single shred of sleepiness left. I stared up at the ceiling, and then stood up once again, putting on a coat before heading outside. Underneath the banyan tree in the backyard, I squatted down and dug through the dirt for a very long time, finally unearthing a glass jar, covered in mud. Inside the jar was filled with origami stars folded from paper. That was something that, after we got married, I insisted on dragging Chen Muku to bury together. Inside it was filled with my admiration for her as well as my longing for our little home. At that time, I was incredibly confident that I would definitely make Chen Muku fall in love with me. But the reality of my past life gave me a brutal slap in the face. I opened the jar, poured out all the pieces of paper inside, unfolded them one by one, and then flicked my lighter to burn them one by one. I have found my dream girl. Her name is Chen Muku. One day I will marry her and make her my wife. Chen Muku has agreed to marry me. Finally, I can be by her side legally and rightfully. I'm so happy that I couldn't sleep all night. Chen Muku is a bit cold toward me, but that's totally fine. I believe that I will definitely make her fall in love with me. I looked at the fire and the pile of ashes. Those wishes from my youth back then were now as calm as autumn lake water. Suddenly, Chen Muku's voice rang out from behind me. In the middle of the night, "What are you burning?" My gaze froze for a brief second, but the movement of my hand still didn't stop. I tossed the last piece of paper into the fire, watching the ashes get blown up by the wind, and only then did I slowly stand up and reply, "Just some useless things." Chen Muku glanced at that glass jar, finding it a bit familiar. With just a glance I knew she basically didn't remember what was originally inside this jar. Chen Muku didn't think much about it either, nonchalantly withdrawing her gaze. Lang Ran had a nightmare, plus the thunder scared him, so I just went over there to check on him. Don't overthink it and don't make things hard for him. I smirked with a faint smile. Even at a time like this, she still didn't forget to protect Lang Ran. That kind of blatant favoritism really makes people envious. I won't. I threw the empty jar away and walked back into the house. A moment later, Chen Muku followed right behind me. Each went back to their own room, and each had their own dreams. After living calmly for a few days, the time left until my departure was down to only 10 days. That day, as soon as I arrived at the military district, a soldier walked over and patted my shoulder. "Comrade Gufeng, you're here. Just in time, Xiao Wu from the disciplinary inspection department is getting married, and she's handing out wedding candies. Let's go join the fun too." Only then did I recall my memories from the past life. It seemed Xiao Wu was marrying a captain in the military district. Walking into the office to eat the wedding candies, Xiao Wu invited everyone to attend the wedding banquet this noon. The noon wedding banquet was held at a restaurant, which was packed to the brim with people coming to congratulate them. I spotted Chen Muku standing in the crowd with just a single glance. She is the groom's superior officer. It was only right to offer congratulations. I didn't stare much and instead started chatting with the other comrades. I don't know how much time had passed, but suddenly a very loud voice rang out from over there. "Regimental Commander Chen, aren't you supposed to be on duty today? Are you even allowed to drink?" Chen Muku's voice was crisp. "It's fine." I requested leave. Right after that, the person spoke again. "Regimental Commander Chen, Comrade Lang Ran volunteered to drink on behalf of the groom, and he only had one glass, but you're already protecting him like this. It's as if he's your actual man or something." I froze, looking up over there, only to see Chen Muku supporting a completely wasted Lang Ran. The guy who just spoke had also passed out on the table, sleeping like a log. The restaurant, which was just bustling with noise, suddenly went dead silent for a brief moment. Everyone turned their gaze toward me. The male comrade next to me gently nudged me. "Gu Feng, don't take it to heart, okay? He's just way too drunk." Chen Muku also frowned, supporting Lang Ran, who was unable to stand steady in her arms, helping him sit down on a chair. She looked like she wanted to step forward to explain things to me, but I already smiled before she could even take a step. Speaking up, "I know it's just a joke. I won't mind it." Chen Muku pulled back the foot she had just lifted. She looked at me, who was smiling on the outside, but with a gaze that had absolutely no ripples of emotion. In her heart, an indescribably strange feeling suddenly well up. She opened her mouth, about to say something more, when a panicked cry rang out from behind Comrade Lang. "Ran, what's wrong with you?" Chen Muku hastily turned her head back, only to see Lang Ran curling up on the ground, his face turning purple as if he couldn't breathe. She instantly rushed over, taking Lang Ran into her arms. Without any hesitation, she gently pressed on his chest. "He's having an asthma attack. Call an ambulance, quick." Waiting until Lang Ran's breathing calmed down and cleared up, Chen Muku, without a shred of hesitation, helped him up, rushing outside without stopping for even a single second, leaving everyone else behind, including me. I calmly witnessed this entire scene without saying a single word. The wedding banquet quickly wrapped up. I returned to the office, wrote a transfer request report, and then knocked on Commander Dad's office door. "I'm applying for a job transfer to Beijing to be permanently stationed there." My words echoed clearly in the commander's office. Dad slowly looked up, his weathered face full of solemnity. Transferring to Beijing. What's the reason? Do you not want your wife and family anymore? I felt my throat tighten with bitterness. Dad and I were never really that close to begin with, especially after I turned 10, following my mother's passing. Coupled with how busy Dad was, the words that Dad and I could share became fewer and fewer in my past life. I always felt like Dad didn't love me that much. But only after I died did I find out Dad had used his life-saving favor with Chen Muku to make her marry me. Regardless of whether this was right or wrong, Dad's only intention was to grant my wish, so I could have the happiness I wanted. I took a deep breath. I've already filed for a forced divorce. In 10 more days, the divorce procedures will be completed. Dad suddenly stood straight up. Why the divorce? Did Chen Muku do something to wrong you? I smiled bitterly. Dad, I know exactly how this marriage between me and Chen Muku started. She doesn't have me in her heart. I've tried my best, so I've decided not to waste each other's time anymore. Dad kept a cold face, saying nothing. I continued. I know you're about to be transferred to Beijing soon. Dad, isn't it great for the two of us to go to Beijing together? Dad's expression changed slightly. How did you know about that? Because this was something from my past life. In my past life, after Dad was transferred away, the relationship between me and Chen Muku became even more strained. I didn't say anything, just quietly waited. Dad's large hand swung down to sign the report. Fine, as long as you don't regret this in the future. I smiled. I won't. In the afternoon, Chen Muku and Long Ran returned to the military district. That night, Chen Muku didn't come home either. I didn't care at all. Lang Ran's asthma had flared up, and with nobody around to take care of him, naturally, Chen Muku wouldn't have the heart to leave him. I did my personal hygiene and went to bed as usual. Leaving work the next day, I walked home alone. When I walked in front of the movie theater, I suddenly saw a familiar car parked by the curb. I froze for a moment, and then saw Chen Muku opening the passenger door for Lang Ran. Ran spotted me first. He had already sat in the passenger seat, but immediately wanted to step down. Comrade Gu, you're off work. What a coincidence. Let's go back together. Please don't misunderstand me by any means. I had a date with a friend to watch a movie, but my friend had a sudden emergency. I just happened to run into Chen Muku, so I asked her to go watch it with me. In my past life, I cared a lot about these little details, believing that the passenger seat in Chen Muku's car was the ultimate validation of my status as her husband, to the point that I viewed this seat as the place that held the sense of security in our marriage. But the current me has given up on Chen Muku herself entirely. So why would I still care about her passenger seat? Seeing Lang Ran about to get out of the car, I stopped him. It's fine. I'm not overthinking at all. You don't need to get out. It's too much trouble. I can just walk back. Chen Muku glanced at me looking like she wanted to say something, but stopped. But I had already turned around and left. At night, I looked at Chen Muku, who was still busy in the study, hesitating. For a moment, I still knocked on the door to remind her it's almost 10 o'clock. Aren't you resting yet? Chen Muku is someone who has a very strict concept of time. Never slept past 10 p.m. But tonight was an exception. Chen Muku didn't even bother to look up as she replied. Tomorrow, there's a cultural performance, and Ling Ran is participating in an act. Tonight, I have to finish reviewing this pile of documents. Otherwise, tomorrow I won't make it in time to watch him perform. Chen Muku spoke very naturally, not caring in the slightest. That the man who was concerning himself with her rest was actually her husband. My chest tightened. Of course you only care when you're genuinely interested. This is clearly a fact I already knew from my past life. So why bother bringing pain upon myself now? I nodded, without saying another word, and turned around to go back to my room. I crossed off another day on the calendar. The days until the divorce procedures are finalized, and I go to Beijing with Dad, is down to only 8 days. The cultural performance took place the next morning, but I didn't go watch it. Originally, I thought I wouldn't run into Chen Muku today either, but to my surprise, after finishing lunch and just returning to the office from the cafeteria, Chen Muku walked in. Her voice was full of displeasure. Did Dad talk to you yesterday afternoon? Did he mention the suspect of the 218 coal mine case has fled to Lincheng? Did you stop Dad from deploying me to Lincheng to assist with the investigation? I was stunned. Chen Muku's father was murdered a few years ago in that exact 218 coal mine case, which remained unsolved. Because of this, Chen Muku always held a very deep obsession with this matter, but she wasn't supposed to know the killer had fled to Lincheng, nor know about her dad's orders. Just as I was about to speak, I saw Chen Muku, who was always so proud, looking at me with a gaze burning with fury. How could you be so selfish as to hold me back here? No one understands that killer better than me. I absolutely must go to Lincheng. Before my eyes, the image from 3 years ago flashed back when Chen Muku's mother was on her deathbed. She had painfully pleaded with me. Gu Feng, the sense of responsibility in our Muku's heart is just too deep. Mom is worried she might try to avenge her father without caring about her own safety. Please watch over her for me. I promise you, Mom. I won't let her act impulsively and end up in trouble. My thoughts snapped back to reality. I hardened my tone. This matter has nothing to do with me. Who gets deployed to Lincheng is the decision of the higher-ups in the city. Since you're a soldier, you must obey. The order. Chen Muku suddenly clenched her hands and said coldly, doing this will only make me hate you even more. My breathing caught, but I didn't say another word. All afternoon, I was spaced out and couldn't focus. Suddenly, there was a knock on the office door. Looking up, I saw Lang Ran walking in. Lang Ran was wearing a simple white shirt, looking clean, tall, and handsome. I thought to myself, no wonder Chen Muku has been hopelessly pining over him all these years. I pulled back my thoughts. Comrade Lang, is there something you need from me? Lang Ran quickly raised his eyes to glance at me and then suddenly knelt flat on the ground, slamming his head down hard. Comrade Gu, I came here to beg you. Chen Muku really wants to capture the killer who murdered her father with her own hands. Could it be that you've never cared about her deepest wish at all? I beg you, please let her go to Lincheng. I stood up abruptly, my expression changing instantly. The whereabouts of the killer in the 218 coal mine case is classified. How did you find out? That was a meeting for high-level leadership. Lang Ran's pleading suddenly stopped, his face turning stark white in an instant. Under my piercing glare, he started stammering, not knowing how to open his mouth. Right at this moment, Chen Muku walked in. She coldly helped Lang Ran up. The look she gave me was filled with an unprecedented amount of disgust and hatred. Gufeng, how could you make him kneel down? Are you using your authority to bully people? Lang Ran's eyes brimmed with tears. Muku, it's my fault. Don't get into a fight with Comrade Gu because of me. Muku's voice, when she turned to speak to him, instantly became incredibly gentle. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Witnessing the scene before my eyes, I only felt my heart being stabbed. Violently, I clenched my fist to steady myself, hardening my voice to ask, do you even know what crime he committed? He eavesdropped on a classified meeting. Before I could even finish my sentence, Chen Muku cut me off with a deep voice. No matter the crime, I'm willing to take the blame for him. I froze right on the spot, in utter disbelief. For the first time, I felt pure rage. Looking at the unregretful, deep affection in her eyes, an indescribably bitter sorrow welled up inside me. Chen Muku, for his sake, are you seriously willing to throw away your entire future? Chen Muku was stunned, keeping silent for a moment before speaking up. He only risked eavesdropping for my sake. At the end of the day, it's all because of me. Back then when I married you, I already let him down once. I can't let him suffer anymore. Grievances. I clenched my fist tightly to force myself to calm down, but I couldn't stop the sudden sharp pain rising from my chest. I closed my eyes tightly, my voice unable to hide my deep disappointment. I'll pretend today's incident never happened. As for Lang Ran's matter, I'll speak to Dad. Both of you get out. Chen Muku gave me a slightly surprised look, but still out of concern for Lang Ran's knees, she led him away and turned to leave. Looking at the backs of the two of them, I wiped away the tears that were about to fall, muttering to myself, very soon, you won't have to let him down anymore. I took a deep breath, picked up the phone, and called Dad. That night, I sat by the table waiting for Chen Muku to return. The moment she walked through the door, I immediately said, the arrangement from the higher-ups is out. In 7 days, you will set off for Lincheng to assist the Lincheng military district with the case. Chen Muku froze for a moment, seemingly not expecting that I would actually help. She nodded, thanks. I silently nodded back, then stood up and returned to my room. This afternoon, I already went to the train station to buy a long-distance ticket to the capital. The train ticket is for 7 days later. When Chen Muku goes to Lincheng, I will also leave for Beijing, each to their own place, each going their separate ways. I pulled out my suitcase and started packing my bags, putting my clothes, certificates of merit, and even my medals into the suitcase. Aside from the clothes to wear during these 2 days, this house almost has no trace of me left anymore. Just as I zipped up the suitcase and was about to lift it, a hand suddenly grabbed my wrist tightly. Where do you think you're going? To Sasivani? I was a bit dazed. The expression showing clearly on Chen Muku's face right now was panic and tension. Why? The only person who could make her feel tense was Lang Ran. Alone, I became even calmer. I just felt the house was a bit messy, so I'm just packing up some clothes I don't wear anymore. While speaking, I pointed at the bag next to me. The clothes you don't wear, I've also organized them. Those were all clothes I had bought for Chen Muku, but she had never even spared them a single glance. Since she didn't like them, I might as well clear them all out. Chen Muku froze for a moment, feeling strange in her own heart, not understanding what was wrong with her, and why she was actually worried that I would leave. She pulled back her thoughts and let go of my hand, her gaze turning cold once again. I want to tell you something. Lang Ran has applied to be the accompanying military doctor and will be going with me. He had a good relationship with my dad and also wants to witness me capturing the killer with his own eyes. Don't overthink it. The movement of my hands froze for a long time before I finally spoke up. You're bringing him along. Aren't you afraid something might happen to him? Chen Muku, without a single shred of hesitation, replied, I will protect him and won't let him suffer any harm whatsoever. Hearing that, I couldn't help but laugh self-deprecatingly in my heart. Right? How could she ever let Lang Ran get hurt? That's the person she cares about the most. I cast my eyes down. Turning my back to her, I want to sleep now. From behind, I didn't hear the sound of Chen Muku's footsteps leaving. I found it strange. Intending to turn my head to look back, but before I could turn around, Chen Muku suddenly threw herself into my arms. My heart skipped a beat instantly. What are you doing? Chen Muku's breath was very hot, but the words she spoke made me feel like I had fallen into an ice cave immediately. I know you are angry in your heart. As long as you don't make things hard for Lang Ran, I can give you what you want. At that exact moment, I felt like I was being burned. I used all my strength to push Chen Muku away. What do you take me for? Chen Muku was completely expressionless, without a single shred of affection in those eyes of hers. I only felt humiliated. I pushed her out and locked the door. Leaning my back against the door, my heart ached as if it were being sliced into pieces. During the days that followed, I was always busy preparing for my departure. 5 days passed by in a flash. One day before my departure, the transfer order for me and Dad to go to Beijing was officially handed down. After clearing out all my things in the office, I hesitated for a very long time. But in the end, I still brought a bulletproof vest with me to look for Chen Muku. That killer is extremely vicious, and he has a gun in his hands. You absolutely must be careful. In my past life, I gave her so many gifts, and this item would be the final gift I'd ever give her. Chen Muku nonchalantly took it flatly, saying thanks, but she didn't even bother to give it a second glance. I pursed my thin lips tightly, and suddenly noticed that on her desk, a bulletproof vest was already sitting there. I froze. You've already prepared one, just as the words left my mouth. I saw a flash of tenderness in Chen Muku's eyes. Comrade Lang Ran already prepared it for me. My gaze sank slightly. I guess I did something completely unnecessary then. After a brief silence, I remembered something. Tomorrow night, let's have a meal together. Okay, this would be our final dinner. Chen Muku frowned, about to say there was no need, but looking at my eyes at this very moment. For some unknown reason, she just couldn't bring herself to reject me. Thinking back to being able to go to Lincheng this time, she pursed her lips for a long time before finally nodding. On the final night before leaving, I stayed home and made a batch of dumplings. Farewell dumplings, welcome. Noodles wishing for a safe journey ahead. Both Chen Muku and I need to stay safe, moving forward toward our own respective futures. When Chen Muku returned, she looked a bit dazed. She said softly, You've gone to a lot of trouble. I smiled, bringing up 2 small dishes of garlic soy sauce. Quick, sit down and eat. They were just boiled. I remember you like to eat them while they're piping hot. Hearing this, Chen Muku was a bit surprised. Married for 3 years. The meals we actually ate together were pitifully few. Most of the time we ate together with Dad. Aside from the times we ate at the military district cafeteria, it was only eating dumplings together during the Lunar New Year. She didn't expect that I'd still remember her preferences so clearly. She sat down at the table, picked up a dumpling and put it in her mouth. Speaking up a bit awkwardly, it's delicious. I didn't say anything. Who would have thought that our very first meal with just the 2 of us would take place like this? Just as I was about to say something, the landline phone sitting next to the sofa rang. Chen Muku stood up to answer the call. After hanging up, she glanced at me, picked up her luggage that had been packed long ago and said, The military district has an emergency. I'm going over to handle it. I won't be coming back tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'm taking the vehicle straight out. You don't need to wait for me. Go to bed early. After saying that, she opened the door and hurriedly left. I looked at the plate of dumplings where she had only taken a single bite out of one, curling my lips into a faint smile, pretending as if nothing happened. I continued eating. It looked like I was waiting for her, but in reality, a long time ago, I had already stopped waiting for her. I finished all the dumplings by myself, then washed the plates clean and put them back in their places, and spent my final night in this house. At 6 o'clock the next morning, right when I opened my eyes, I looked out the window and checked the weather on the calendar. My mood was amazing and a bright smile unknowingly formed. On my lips, I made myself some breakfast, took my time finishing it, and then packed the final 2 sets of clothes from the closet into the suitcase. Then from the bottom drawer, I pulled out the forced divorce application and placed it in the most conspicuous spot on the desk. Once the 15-day limit is up, the marriage will automatically be terminated. The words of the staff member kept echoing in my ears. I picked up my suitcase, opened the door, and was about to leave when I spotted 2 familiar figures getting into a vehicle together at the gates of the military compound. It was a green military jeep. It was Chen Muku and Lang Ran. Turns out it wasn't the military district that had an emergency last night, but Lang Ran who had an emergency. She had gone all out just to be by his side. disregarding even her own status. Watching the jeep drive away, I smiled with relief, then turned around to lock the door. Stepping away from the bridal chamber I shared with Chen Muku, leaving behind the home that no longer held a single trace of my existence. Just as I reached the gates of the military housing complex, another military jeep pulled up. The window rolled down and it was my dad. "Is everything packed up?" "Get in." I nodded, yes. The jeep sped off toward the train station. At 8:20 at the train station, 2 trains departed at the exact same time. One from Shan Bay heading toward Beijing, one from Shan Bay heading toward Lincheng. One going north, one going south. From this moment on, we part ways, no longer having anything to do with each other. I looked through the train window and saw Chen Muku and Lang ran on the opposite side. My lips moved without making a sound. "Goodbye," on the other side. Chen Muku suddenly felt a sharp pang in her heart. She turned her head to look at the opposite side, but only saw the other train moving away and disappearing from sight. Chen Muku suddenly felt a wave of uneasiness in her heart, yet she didn't know the reason why. Moreover, for some unknown reason, she suddenly thought of me. Why would she even think of me? Chen Muku put her hand to her forehead, gently shaking her head. Long Ran, who was standing right next to her, saw this and asked in confusion, "Muku, what's wrong with you?" Chen Muku pulled back her gaze and lifted her head once again. "It's nothing. I was just thinking about that killer." That's right, at this moment, nothing was more important than capturing the man who murdered her dad. Chen Muku's gaze became resolute. Chen Muku's early morning mission went down pretty smoothly. She had studied the vicious culprit of the 218 coal mine case for many years. Just as she had said, no one understood that killer better than her. Thanks to her assistance, the local military district operated way more efficiently. The culprit was quickly cornered and brought to justice. After so many years, she finally lived to see this moment, watching the killer being escorted onto the police vehicle. Chen Muku tried hard to hold back her tears, but her eyes still turned red. Lang Ran, standing right next to her, congratulated her on finally avenging her father's death. Yet for some unknown reason, at this exact moment, the face that popped up in her mind was actually mine. Chen Muku hurriedly shook her head, shaking this bizarre thought out of her mind. It must be because for this mission, Gufeng had helped her out, which is why she suddenly remembered him at a time like this. Once the operation was over, Chen Muku and Lang Ran didn't stay behind for long either. They boarded a train back to Shan Bay. By the time they arrived, the night of the full moon had already passed. Chen Muku didn't even drop by the house, intending to head straight to the military compound. Lang Ran looked at Chen Muku with a worried face. "Let me go with you." But Chen Muku didn't want him to push his limits, for her sake, any further. After all, his health wasn't great, so by any chance, if something happened again, it wouldn't be good. "No need. Lang Ran, you should take the jeep back first. The cemetery over there is very far. Don't trouble yourself by running around with me." After saying that, she called a driver over to hand Lang Ran's personal suitcase to him. Lang Ran knew she must have a lot on her mind, and he wanted to stay by her side. But since she didn't want him to, he could only get into the jeep and drive away. Chen Muku borrowed a Phoenix bicycle, riding it all the way to the cemetery. Her father and mother were buried together. Chen Muku carried 2 bouquets of fresh flowers up the mountain, thinking the cemetery would be empty at this hour, but to her surprise, from afar, she saw someone with their back turned toward her, standing silently in front of her parents' tombstone. Chen Muku stepped forward, calling out Uncle Duan. The man didn't turn around, only replying with a brief, "You're here." Uncle Duan was a good brother to her parents, and also one of the few survivors of the 218 coal mine case. After her father passed away, he also took great care of her. It wasn't until later, when she started a family and became a regimental commander, that Uncle Duan focused on taking care of his own family. She originally intended to break the news to Uncle Duan later, but she didn't expect his information network to be so sharp. Already arriving at the cemetery, one step ahead of her, Chen Muku placed each bouquet of flowers before the graves. After wiping down the tombstone, she stood up and heard Uncle Duan speak. "I thought I'd never see the killer caught in this lifetime. I didn't expect you to be so capable, Chen Muku. The nets of heaven are wide, though its mesh is coarse, nothing slips through. Those who do evil will be punished sooner or later." Uncle Duan sighed softly, "But I didn't expect that kid Gufeng would actually let you go to Lincheng. After all, when your mother passed away, she begged him to make sure he watches over you. When I heard you went to Lincheng, I was shocked for quite a long time. Now it seems he just trusted your ability, and I was worrying over nothing." It felt like a bolt of thunder exploded in her ears. Chen Muku took a long time to find her voice again. "Uncle Duan, what do you mean, my mother?" Before she passed away, Uncle Duan suddenly realized something. "Gufeng never told you. Before your mother left, she was afraid you'd do something foolish, so she entrusted him to absolutely watch over you." No wonder. He didn't want her to go to Lincheng. Turns out there was this layer of connection between them. But why didn't he say anything about it? Thinking back to the words she said to me at that time, Chen Muku compressed her red lips tightly. She had completely misunderstood him. Even if she didn't love him, she should at least say an apology. She quickly said goodbye to Uncle Duan and hastened her steps to walk back toward her house. On her way back, she passed by a tanghulu stall. She remembered I loved eating it, so she casually bought a skewer. Arriving home, Chen Muku felt a bit uneasy as she pushed the door open. Yet the house was completely empty, cold and desolate. Just a single glance was enough to know I wasn't in the room. She called out Gufeng twice, but nobody answered. While wondering where I could have gone at this hour, Chen Muku's eyes suddenly caught sight of the forced divorce application sitting on the desk. The tanghulu skewer instantly dropped from her hand onto the ground, rolling around twice and getting covered in dust. It was as if Chen Muku suddenly became illiterate, her face filled with utter shock for a moment. Only after a long while did she finally process what was happening. I actually filed for a forced divorce. But why back then? I wanted to marry her so desperately at all costs, even letting my dad use a life-saving favor to force her into marriage. Is this just some hard-to-get mind game I'm playing now? Chen Muku couldn't clearly describe the feeling in her heart right now. As if possessed by a ghost, she pushed open my bedroom door. In her heart, she was still in disbelief, but when she looked into the empty room where every single item belonging to me had completely vanished, Chen Muku felt a brief flash of relief. Yet a hidden sorrow quietly welled up in her heart. Perhaps it was just regret for not having the chance to apologize for her actions. She thought to herself like that, then picked up the tanghulu skewer, threw it into the trash can, and turned back to her room. Except lying on the bed, she just couldn't close her eyes for the life of her, as a nameless frustration washed over her. Early the next morning, Chen Muku heard a knock on the door. Opening the door, she saw it was Lang Ran. She realized that she actually felt a bit disappointed, without knowing the reason why. But who she was actually looking forward to, even she herself didn't know. Lang Ran brought over a plate of buns, smiling brightly. Chen Muku, I just made these buns. They're fresh out of the steamer. Try one. Chen Muku took one and tried it. How is it? Lang Ran asked, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. It's delicious. Lang Ran smiled. He was about to set the remaining plate of buns on the desk when he accidentally saw the divorce application. Lying right there, he froze for a second, then turned his head to look at her in shock. Chen Muku, this. He divorced me. Her voice was completely calm, just like she was commenting on how delicious the bun was, utterly nonchalant. On Lang Ran's face, an unhideable look of pure joy instantly appeared. He set the plate down and grabbed her hand. I finally lived to see this day, Muku. Back then, because of your dad's life-saving favor, you were forced to marry Gufeng. Now that he has filed for divorce, we can finally be together. The person in front of her was so incredibly emotional that his voice was even trembling slightly. Chen Muku gently patted his back and gave a soft reply. But a wave of uneasiness flashed through her heart. What happened in the morning didn't last very long, since both of them had to go to work. When Chen Muku arrived at the military district, she headed straight to her dad's office. She didn't know whether her dad knew about the forced divorce application, and she didn't know what his attitude toward this would be. But at the very least, she had to come to give an explanation and hand over the mission results. When she pushed the office door open, she found that the inside was completely empty. He left too. A look of utter bewilderment appeared on Chen Muku's face, and that bizarre feeling in her heart grew even more intense. Why did both of them leave without saying a single goodbye? Comrade Chen, are you looking for Commander Gu Yiti from behind? The voice of a colleague rang out. She turned around, and before she could even say a word, she heard the person continue, Commander, Gu and Comrade Gu Fang have both transferred their work to Beijing. That's weird, why didn't you go with them? Chen Muku didn't answer. She brushed past that person and then left, returning to her own office. She sat there in a daze for a long time, not understanding why she felt so utterly empty and lost, as far as she was concerned. This was a good thing. She no longer had to spend the rest of her life living with someone she didn't love. Nor did she have to worry about her dad's life-saving favor anymore. But why did her heart feel like a piece was missing? Like this, in the days that followed, Chen Muku constantly forced herself not to think about Gu Fang. Her colleague Lang Ran also proposed that the two of them get back together. Chen Muku thought about how she had failed him once in the past, and now she couldn't fail him a second time. So she agreed, except every time they discussed big life plans, she would always unconsciously think of Gufeng. Moreover, as the date to register their marriage drew closer, the number of times she thought of him increased even more. Sometimes she would even wonder what kind of expression Gufeng would have when he heard this news. Would he be sad, or would he not care at all? Thinking about how he probably wouldn't care at all even made her heart clench up for a brief moment. After snapping back to her senses, she thought that she must definitely be going crazy. The two of them were already divorced. So what did all of these things have to do with him anymore? Returning once again after a gathering at the military district, Chen Muku and Lang Ran had a bit to drink. The atmosphere instantly seemed to freeze up. On both of their faces was a look of absolute disbelief. He still wanted to speak up and say something, but Chen Muku didn't give him a chance to talk. She quickly excused herself first and then locked herself in her room. She sat dazed in the room looking at the moonlight outside the window, unable to believe that she could actually at a time like this call out Gufeng's name. But that strange feeling in her heart kept welling up relentlessly, and recent events also continuously rushed back into her mind. She began to think about the underlying reason. She just sat there in a daze until morning and figured out a conclusion that left her completely shook. She had fallen for Gufeng, and though she didn't want to admit it, the truth was exactly that. If not, there was no way to explain why she had been so dazed and lost this whole time. After thinking everything through, Chen Muku held her head in her hands, feeling a bit flustered. She had actually fallen for Gufeng. How could she fall in love with him? She clearly used to hate him so much. No, she absolutely had to meet him to confirm all of this. Chen Muku had stayed up the entire night. As soon as it was morning, she went straight to the military district to request a leave of absence, then bought a train ticket to Beijing, leaving immediately. 1,122 hours later, Commander Gu's house in Beijing wasn't hard to find at all. She just needed to ask an acquaintance to know right away. After tracking it down and knocking on the door, she didn't see any sign of Gufeng. There was only Commander Gu, who wasn't welcoming her much at all. Chen Muku, why are you here? Chen Muku bit her lip. Dad, why did you and him just leave without saying a single word? I want to see Gufeng one time. Dad's expression wasn't very pleasant. Gufeng isn't in Beijing. The secret transfer order from higher ups cannot be disclosed. Chen Muku stopped Dad from closing the door. Please tell me, Dad. Otherwise, I'll just keep waiting here forever. Dad looked at her with a bizarre gaze. Suit yourself. And then shut the door. Dad didn't even bother to care about this person who only learned to cherish someone after losing them, so he just left her standing outside. He didn't believe she could stand there for long, so he casually continued drinking tea and reading the newspaper. When night fell and Dad was getting ready for bed, he noticed Chen Muku was still standing at the door, having not left yet. If you knew this day would come, why act like that? At the start, he coldly snorted, then pulled the curtain shut. Having stood for several hours, Chen Muku's legs had gone numb long ago, but she couldn't back down. This is her only chance to meet Gufeng. She absolutely has to meet him to beg for his forgiveness. Late at night, a loud clap of thunder suddenly boomed in the sky, and right after that, a torrential downpour came crashing down. Chen Muku was instantly drenched from head to toe. She still didn't move an inch, letting the heavy rain pour down on her. But gradually, she felt her consciousness start to blur. The scenery in front of her began to spin, and then she collapsed. After losing consciousness, Chen Muku had a dream. No need to cook for me and don't touch my things. With a cold and disgusted look, she stared at the man in front of her. The man bent down to clear the banquet table that nobody had even touched. Chen Muku was dazed for a moment. Where is this? Why does the person in front of her look exactly like him, yet look so incredibly old? Moreover, his eyes looked so painful to look at. She wanted to step closer to see clearly who that man was. As it turned out, that person turned his head right at that moment. Chen Muku was stunned for a brief moment. It turned out to be Gufeng. But the person in front of her had a slouched back and an old face, and there wasn't a single shred of light left in his eyes. Is this person really me? Why did Gufeng turn out like this? Nobody gave her an answer. The scene in front of her kept changing constantly. The only thing that didn't change was her cold gaze and Gufeng's profound love that was filled with disappointment. She felt as if she had experienced her entire life inside a single dream. The moment Gufeng passed away in utter despair, she snapped awake and opened her eyes, unable to snap out of it for a long time. How could she treat Gufeng like that? Gufeng's absolute determination to divorce her? Could it be because he also had a similar dream? You're awake, Commander Gu's voice rang out by her ear. Chen Muku was dazed for a moment before realizing she was in the hospital. Tell me, what did you even do all that for? When Gufeng was still here, you didn't know how to cherish him, causing him to leave in total heartbreak. Now you come to my place looking half dead like this. Back then, it was precisely because I valued your good character that I wanted Gufeng to marry you. But I never expected it would ultimately lead to a conclusion like this. Chen Muku forced herself to sit up. I'm sorry, Dad. I failed your expectations. I beg you to tell me where Gufeng is, so I can have a chance to make up for my mistakes. He sighed helplessly, seeing that she genuinely repented. So he told her about Gufeng's whereabouts. Turns out, Gufeng hadn't even been back in Beijing for 2 days, before receiving a direct transfer order from the higher-ups to go to the Hexi research base to develop a new type of weapon as a professional, first-class researcher. Gufeng had no reason to refuse. Moreover, being heavily relied upon by the country was an honor for him, which is why he went straight to Hexi. Having learned of Gufeng's whereabouts, Chen Muku didn't stay long and went back to Shan Bay. She needed to properly arrange everything first. The very first thing she needed to do was to make her feelings clear to Lang. Ran listened to her and looked at her in absolute disbelief, his voice cracking. From pain, Chen Muku, what kind of joke are you playing right now? You're saying you won't marry me anymore and want to go look for Gu? Feng instead, you love him. How could you possibly love him? Chen Muku calmed his emotions down. I'm sorry, but feelings aren't something I can control. I have already understood my own heart. I really can't marry you anymore. Unjustifiably wasting your time. But how is this even possible? Lang, Ran still found it completely unbelievable. Chen Muku usually treated Gu Feng like a total stranger. So how could she possibly like him? I know this might be hard for you to accept all at once. No matter how you want to be compensated, I can make it up to you. Lang Ran left in tears. He told her not to regret her decision. Chen Muku still left him some money and food coupons while also putting in a word with some acquaintances at the military district, asking them to take care of Lang Ran a bit more. After settling Lang Ran's matter, the second thing Chen Muku did was going to the cemetery to say goodbye to her parents. She didn't know when she would be able to return from this trip. The third thing was to explain the situation to Uncle Duan, then give him some money and food coupons, thanking him for taking care of her all these years. After that, she firmly submitted her application to leave, volunteering to go to the base as a guard. Sitting on the train, Chen Muku suddenly recalled that trip to Lincheng. At that time, was Gu Feng perhaps on the train going in the opposite direction? Her heart fluttered slightly as she tightly gripped the base address in her hand and muttered, Gu Feng, I'm coming to find you. 8 hours later at the Hexi base, Chen Muku followed the address to find the base. From afar, she caught sight of a familiar figure. 3 days ago, when I just landed in Hexi, a huge gust of wind happened to blow up, throwing fine yellow sand all over the sky and blurring my vision. By the time the dust storm settled, the true appearance of the city finally revealed itself. Vast land, sparse population. Looking out into the distance, there was only wind and sand everywhere, with sparse trees scattered across the ground, looking withered and lifeless, making the city look even more desolate. I stepped out of the airport and spotted the female soldier waiting to receive me outside. I carried my suitcase and walked over. The person opposite greeted me with a military salute. Excuse me, are you Comrade Gu Feng? I saluted back. Yes, that's me. Hello, comrade. My name is Zhao Xiaotang. Just call me Xiao Zhao. She briefly introduced herself, and while leading me forward, she informed me about the next arrangements. The organization assigned me to pick you up. We'll head to your residence to settle down first. Then I'll take you to get familiar with the research institute and meet Commander Liu. I nodded in agreement. While the two of us were chatting, we walked up to a military vehicle. Zhao Xiaotang put my trunk into the trunk of the car and opened the back door for me to get in. I didn't stand on ceremony either, said my thanks and sat inside. The car carried me forward. I tilted my head looking at the scenery outside the window and also thought about my next arrangements. The Hexi research base is a national priority, classified research base. Inside, they develop all kinds of new weapons. And as a first-class professional researcher, I should have been here right from the very start because my dad couldn't bear to see me suffer. And since I was also married to Chen Muku, I stayed back in Shan Bay. Before coming here, I went through countless background checks and also signed a non-disclosure agreement. Although contributing to the country and pursuing my self-worth got me really hyped, a hidden sense of uneasiness was still mixed in with my anticipation. Zhao Xiao Tang saw me staring out the window, looking like I wasn't very interested, so she proactively started a conversation with me. Don't look at how small our place is, and that the environmental conditions aren't great. Everyone at the base is actually super friendly. I was dazed for a moment, and only after snapping back to reality did I realize Zhao Xiaotang probably thought I didn't like this place. I let out a soft chuckle. I think this place is great. I heard you used to be at the Shan Bay military district, comrade. The environment over there is way better than this small place. Plus the work is pretty chill too. Why? Did you think of running off to a remote area? Like this? Zhao Xiaotang seemed to speak from the heart. And after finishing her sentence, she even let out a soft sigh. I watched the car cross through the canyon once again, replying as if I were exclaiming, but this place is a key development zone of our nation. Shouldn't our lives be dedicated to this place? Zhao Xiaotang probably didn't know how to respond to that. She lowered her head and stopped talking. I bit my lip, feeling like I might have taken everything way too much for granted. They are only responsible for protecting the safety of the base and the researchers. Perhaps they don't even know what's being researched inside. Moreover, once you come in here, you might not get out for the rest of your life. So they would naturally admire the outside world too, with a chill and free job. My statement just now was indeed a bit of moral policing. I awkwardly spoke up to explain I didn't mean it like that. Zhao Xiao Tang didn't seem to understand why I was apologizing. She was slightly dazed for a moment and then said, I didn't misunderstand anything. I just feel that Comrade Gu's ideological awareness is super high, and it's really worth learning from. This statement caught me off guard. My expression became unnatural as I lowered my head, the tips of my ears turning slightly red. Getting praised for having a high ideological awareness on the very first day of meeting. It just felt a bit weird somehow. After that, neither of us said another word. The car very quickly brought the two of us to the research base. The guards checked my luggage and took the entry-exit pass from Zhao Xiaotang's hand. I was just about to ask Zhao Xiaotang whether I should walk in by myself or if she would drive me inside, when I heard the guard suddenly speak up, "Sorry, you guys cannot go inside." What? Two cries of shock and absolute disbelief rang out at the same time. I spoke up to ask, I was transferred here, and I have a transfer order. Why can't I go inside? We don't know anything about a transfer order. We only accept passes. His pass has already expired, so he can't go in. My doubtful gaze shifted from the guard's face to Zhao Xiaotang's face. Zhao Xiaotang awkwardly scratched her head. When I went out this morning, I didn't need to use the pass. I didn't expect that. In my rush, I grabbed the wrong one. Grabbed the one that already expired. Hearing her say that, I smiled helplessly. So what do we do now? Zhao Xiaotang said to the guard, "Sorry to bother you, comrades, but could you please report this? Tell Commander Liu that Comrade Gufeng has arrived." The guard didn't make things difficult either, and went to report. A moment later, someone came out to receive us. But the person who came wasn't Commander Liu. It was Ku Tongzhou, the manager of the research building. Commander Liu manages the entire research base and holds the highest command position here. Ku Tongzhou is the second most powerful figure right after him and is the manager of the research building. He is also another first-class professional researcher here. He simply said a few words to the guards, and the two of us were led inside. Ku Tongzhou only greeted the two of us briefly, and then left immediately looking extremely busy. I watched his retreating figure lost in thought when I heard Zhao Xiaotang speak up from beside me. Comrade Q is just like that by nature. Everyone teases him for being a research maniac. He probably ran off to take care of research stuff again. It's not that he didn't want to welcome you. I didn't think too much about it, but hearing Zhao Xiaotang's slightly comforting explanation, I casually replied, "You seem to be very familiar with everyone here." "Not really, I just happen to know almost everyone." I secretly admired Zhao Xiaotang's social skills, following her toward my own residence. Since the distance wasn't far, Zhao Xiaotang asked someone else to help return the car to the management office, then led me there on foot. I looked at the walls completely filled with slogans: "Must catch up and surpass," "The advanced level of the world," "Self-reliance," "Just struggle," and couldn't help but feel deeply moved in my heart. The two of us arrived at the residence. Zhao Xiaotang handed the keys to him. "Comrade Gu, this is your residence. Later on, if you see anything missing, just come find me. Right now, do you want to clean up the room first? Or go meet Commander Liu first, to get familiar with the base?" Without needing to think, I gave my answer right away. "Go meet Commander Liu first." So I opened the door, placed my trunk inside, and followed her, continuing to follow Zhao Xiaotang's footsteps to the commander's office. Zhao Xiaotang couldn't go inside, so she stood waiting for him downstairs. He briefly reported the situation, listening to the words of encouragement and expectations the commander had for him, and then walked downstairs. Zhao Xiaotang was still standing straight there, waiting for him. Seeing him come down, she hurriedly went to greet him. "Comrade Gu, is everything all settled? Then let me show you around the base." I nodded. So the two of us started walking around the research base. Zhao Xiaotang introduced everything to him as they walked. "This is the cafeteria. For all 3 meals breakfast. Lunch and dinner you can come eat here. This side is the boiler room. Hot water is provided here." She pointed to the most grand building. In this place, a hint of admiration showing in her eyes. She said, "This is the research building, and it's also where you'll be working from now on. But we can't go inside right now. Tonight someone will probably bring you your work ID and brief you on the details." I looked up in the direction of her hand and nodded slightly. After finishing the tour, Zhao Xiaotang briefed him on a few other situations. This place is quite far from the downtown area. There will be someone specifically responsible for going out to buy daily necessities. When the time comes, whatever you need, just report it directly, and they will buy it for you. If there's anything else you're not clear about, just come find me directly. She gave instructions on all sorts of things, and I carefully remembered every single one. I expressed my gratitude to her. My favorable impression of her skyrocketed. I looked at this vast, boundless land and couldn't help but exclaim that I would be living in this place from now on. I must carry my ideals and ambitions, along with my expectations, for future life to keep living on. 3 months later, I was once again in the middle of work, having a heated argument with Ku Tongzhou. Neither of us was willing to back down. I already said, "This experiment has no scientific logic. This thing can't possibly succeed. It's a complete waste of time and resources. We haven't even tried it yet. How do you know it won't succeed? Moreover, the previous research direction we've been following has already hit a dead end. Why not try a new direction and see?" Arguments like this have happened no less than 10 times over the past 3 months. Both of us are dedicated to research. Our professional expertise is incredibly solid, yet our research perspectives don't really align. I am someone who dares to think and act, boldly proposing plans and courageously innovating, while Kutongjo is quite conservative. Any method that is too risky, he doesn't want to try, believing it's a waste of resources and time. This time was no different. I proposed a new research direction, but Kutongjo disagreed, arguing that it had no scientific basis, and relying solely on my own deduction wasn't reliable. But I felt this thing had a very high chance of succeeding. After all, since the research currently had zero progress anyway, why not switch to a different direction and give it a shot? The two of us kept at it, neither willing to back down, locking horns until it was time for lunch. A colleague in the team hurriedly pulled him away. All right, Comrade Gu, eating lunch is what's most important. Let's go eat first. I originally planned to say I was already full from anger, but knowing they had good intentions to bail me out, I didn't say anything more. I followed him to the cafeteria, got the meal coupons, and then went to pick up my food portion. But I was in absolutely no mood to eat my head, completely filled with how to get Kutongjo to agree to this plan. The colleague looked at him and couldn't help but chuckle helplessly. Stop thinking about it, Comrade Gu. If you keep staring at it, the rice is going to get completely cold. Just look at you two. You're clearly both the most outstanding researchers. So how do you both have the exact same stubborn streak? In private, everyone is so easygoing, yet the moment it comes to work, neither of you will yield an inch. Hearing his sigh of exclamation, I also let out a helpless sigh. I also wanted to know why a Kutongjo, who was practically ready to grant any request in private, could be so rigid when it came to work. As I absent-mindedly ate my food, I heard my colleague speak up again. Comrade Gu, did you ask the purchasing team to buy anything for you this time? Today is the day they return to the city. I was dazed for a moment. I had completely forgotten that today was the day Zhao Xiaotang's group would be coming back. I nodded slightly, hearing the voice opposite sound a bit surprised. This seems to be the first time I've seen you. Nod in agreement regarding this matter. Hearing that, let out a soft chuckle. He really had never asked them to buy anything before, even though every single time before heading out, Zhao Xiaotang would also come to ask him. But every single time he refused. This time, he didn't ask them to bring any other stuff either. Just told them to bring a roll of yarn and a crochet hook. First, it was because the weather was way too cold, so he wanted to knit a scarf, hat and gloves himself to keep warm. Second, he also wanted to knit Zhao Xiaotang a pair of gloves to thank her for taking care of him during the past months. He didn't have any valuable items to give other people, so he could only personally crochet a few items to show a bit of his sincerity. My colleague reminded me not to forget this time. After knocking off work, I went to the gate to wait for the supply truck, but unexpectedly, the supply truck this time was running a bit late. After waiting for a long time, I finally saw the truck arrive, so I stepped up to line up and wait for the items to be distributed. The person on the truck held the list, checking it against each person one by one, then found my items and handed them to him. I checked them over once, nothing was missing. I said my thanks and turned around to leave, when I suddenly heard a familiar voice calling his name, Gu Feng. His body suddenly froze up, and only then did his mind register it. This actually sounded like Chen Muku's voice. Turning his head back, sure enough, he saw the person wearing that military overcoat was Chen Muku, who was calling him from amidst the crowd. He didn't know why Chen Muku knew his location or why she appeared here, but he didn't want to have any connection with her anymore, so he turned his head and walked straight away without stopping at all. Chen Muku saw him treating her with the attitude of a total stranger, and a dense, dull pain surged from the bottom of her heart. She immediately lifted her feet, wanting to give chase, but was stopped by the person traveling with her. Comrade Chen, what do you think you're doing? The assigned task here isn't finished yet. After finishing the work, we still have to go return the vehicle. That person rattled off a long string of tasks. Chen Muku listened, getting a massive headache. But since she was pulled back by that person, she couldn't leave, and I had already vanished from her sight long ago. Chen Muku let out a long sigh, thinking to herself that she could only look for Gufeng later. After all, she had already been transferred here, so there would be plenty of chances to meet him. On the other side, I didn't care all about Chen Muku's appearance. It was just like running into a total stranger, without causing any impact on me whatsoever. I returned to my room and started my knitting work. Inside the room, the fireplace had been lit long ago, the fire burning brightly, making the room incredibly warm. On rest days, as per usual, he would always stay cooped up in his room reading a book by himself, only occasionally going out for a stroll. But because the weather had been too cold lately, I had absolutely no desire to step out the door. Now that I had yarn in hand, I could consider it a task to crochet for a while. Then he started working based on what he remembered in his memory. The yarn and the crochet hook moved swiftly, dancing in his hands, and before long, the shape of a pair of gloves gradually appeared, while his hands kept moving. His mind was actually thinking about other things. He wanted to wait until next spring, when the weather gets warmer, to go explore and sightsee around the area more. He heard that the nearby grottos are a masterpiece Gu Feng had always highly praised and been curious about. The god-tier mind-blowing carving techniques of the ancients. So he intended to check it out whenever he had time. Having been here for a few months, he had already mastered the rules and regulations of this place. Outsiders who want to come in here must go through a ton of paperwork and obtain a pass, but the research base doesn't overly restrict their travel. They just need to submit an application and state clearly where they plan to go. After all, these are national secrets, so every research issue and action needs to be recorded and archived. I once went with someone else to do the paperwork once, so I already knew the whole process by heart. Although most people find it a hassle and choose to stay back instead of going out, he still always looked forward to it a bit, but he still always harbored a bit of hope to waiting to go into the city. Thinking this way, under the embrace of the warm fireplace, a wave of intense drowsiness washed over him. He put down the items in his hands, intending to take a quick nap at the table. By the time he woke up again, he discovered it was already pitch black outside. He secretly cried out that things were bad because at this hour, the cafeteria wouldn't have any food left. It was highly possible he'll have to go hungry tonight, but he still held on to a last shred of hope and wanted to go check it out, since he always ate at the cafeteria. He didn't have any food at his place. Just as he grabbed his mess kit and meal coupons and opened the door, he saw someone holding a lunchbox right at the door. It was Zhao Xiaotong, who was about to knock. Both of them were stunned. Zhao Xiaotong reacted first, handing the lunchbox in her hand to Comrade Gu. I saw you didn't come to the cafeteria for dinner tonight. I didn't know if you were feeling unwell. The cafeteria is about to close, so I took it upon myself to bring you a portion. I looked at the lunchbox handed in front of me, hesitant to speak. Zhao Xiaotong hurriedly added another sentence. This lunchbox is brand new and has never been used before. There was really no better alternative, and I couldn't let myself go. Hungry, so I accepted the lunchbox. She handed over and casually passed the meal coupons in my hand to her. Zhao Xiaotong waved her hands repeatedly. Comrade Gu, there's no need to be so polite. You should just keep these meal coupons. Seeing that she wouldn't accept them, I couldn't help but pretend to look serious and said, if you don't accept them, then I can't accept this meal either. Hearing me say that, only then did Zhao Xiaotong accept the meal coupons. She advised that the food had gotten a bit cold and told me to reheat it before eating. After giving the advice, she immediately turned around and left. I carried the lunchbox into the room, completely failing to notice that in the dark of night, there was someone standing not far away, staring intently. That was Chen Muku's gaze. Chen Muku stood in the distance, witnessing the entire scene. In her heart, a surge of ultimate jealousy and anger woke up. In just a short 3 months, Gu Feng had already found a new love. No wonder he treated her like she didn't exist, leaving so decisively back then without a shred of pity, and turning his back so ruthlessly again today. Then what was the point of her giving up her position as regiment commander to come here as a mere low-ranking soldier? What was the use of giving up a privileged life to come to this harsh land? Chen Muku's entire body trembled slightly. Whether it was from the cold or from anger, her hands clenched into tight fists, her nails almost digging deep into her flesh. But she didn't notice it at all. Instinctively, she wanted to step forward to ask Gu Feng for a clear explanation, but after taking just 2 steps, she was called back by someone else. Chen Muku, what are you doing here in the dead of night? Is this side your residence? My residence is over on that side. Chen Muku turned around and recognized that it was Zhao Xiaotong. He still hadn't managed to react to anything. Why did everything change like this? Luckily, he found a reason for her himself. Seeing the cafeteria was closed, I took the liberty of bringing a portion for you. Here. I looked at the lunchbox handed in front of me, hesitant to speak. Zhao Xiaotong hurriedly added another sentence. This lunchbox really is brand new. No one has used it before. There was no better alternative, as he couldn't let himself go hungry, so I accepted the lunchbox she handed over. Gu Feng then stuffed the stack of meal coupons in his hand to her. Zhao Xiaotong waved her hands repeatedly. Comrade Gu, there's no need to be so polite. You should just keep these meal coupons. Seeing that she wouldn't accept them, Gu Feng pretended to look serious and said, if you don't accept this stack of coupons, then I can't accept this meal either. Hearing him say that, only then did Zhao Xiaotong accept the stack of meal coupons, not forgetting to remind him that the food had gotten a bit cold, telling him to reheat it before eating. After giving the advice, she immediately turned around and left. Gu Feng carried the lunchbox into the house, completely failing to notice that in the dark of night, not far away, there was a pair of eyes staring intently at him. That was exactly Chen Muku's gaze. Chen Muku stood not far away, witnessing this entire scene. In her heart, a wave of endless pain and anger surged. In just a short 3 months, Gu Feng had already found a new joy. No wonder he completely ignored her, leaving back then without a shred of lingering affection, and turning his back so ruthlessly when they met again. Then, what was the point of her giving up her position as regiment commander to come here and be a mere low-ranking guard? what was the meaning of giving up a privileged life to come to this bitterly cold and harsh place. Chen Muku's entire body trembled slightly. Whether it was from emotion or from anger, her hands clenched into tight fists, her nails almost digging deep into her flesh. But she didn't notice it at all. Instinctively, she wanted to step forward to ask Gu Feng, but after taking just 2 steps, she was called back. Comrade Chen, what are you doing here in the dead of night? This side is the residence of the researchers. Our residence is over on that side. Chen Muku turned around and recognized that it was the person who went with her today to deliver the daily necessities. For a moment, she didn't know how to react or answer, so she just stayed silent and didn't speak. Luckily, that person found a reason for her. Did you just... Anyway, you must remember this carefully. Don't just come to this area casually in the future. Especially these rooms, they're all stayed in by male comrades. Yes, I understand. That person didn't say anything more and led Chen Muku away in a different direction. Unlike the red brick house where I lived, Chen Muku's residence was an earthen, walled house, and that entire area shared the same layout, with 2 or even more people sharing a single room. Chen Muku followed that person back to her residence by a stroke of coincidence. She and Zhao Xiaotang actually shared the same room, as only her room had an empty bed left at the moment. Zhao Xiaotang didn't know about the history between her and me, nor did she expect that this woman would view her as a love rival. Seeing the person walk in, she spoke up to greet her. Comrade Chen, what a coincidence. Are you sharing a room with me? Chen Muku looked at her and immediately recalled the scene she had just witnessed in front of my room. She let out a not so happy making Zhao Xiaotang feel a baby too. It was clear that this person had hit it off so well with her on the supply truck. So why was her attitude so cold toward her the moment they got back to the base? But she didn't pay it much. Mind just thinking the other party was in a bad mood. When Zhao Xiaotang arrived at the city area, struggling to figure out how to get to the research base, she happened to run into Chen Muku, who was buying daily necessities with other comrades. After the few of them chatted for a while, Zhao Xiaotang showed them her papers and transfer orders. Chen Muku then brought her back along with them. Throughout the journey, the 2 of them chatted very happily, feeling like they regretted not meeting sooner. Zhao Xiaotang didn't like to gossip, nor did she pry into private matters. Her measured way of speaking made Chen Muku feel very comfortable. She thought the 2 of them could become good friends. But unexpectedly, the moment they got back, she witnessed that scene between her and me. For the first time, Chen Muku closely observed Zhao Xiaotang, staring at her for a long time. But she couldn't see anything special about her. Her looks weren't outstanding, falling far short compared to her. No matter how she looked at it, she wasn't the type I would like. She couldn't help but feel that she was overthinking. Maybe the 2 of them were just friends. But do friends behave like that with each other? Chen Muku didn't want to think deeper into it, only feeling extremely frustrated. She lay on the bed for a long time, not feeling sleepy at all. Hearing the steady breathing of Zhao Xiaotang, she didn't dare to toss and turn, fearing she would disturb the other's sleep. Just like that, she kept her eyes wide open until morning. A few days later, Chen Muku went to guard the gate at the research building according to the assignment schedule. From afar, she saw Gu Feng walking over with a tall, handsome guy. The 2 of them talked and laughed as they walked, seeming to have a very good relationship. Are they friends? He came here and already made new friends. But these things Chen Muku would not get an answer, making her even more frustrated, because she realized that right now, she knew nothing about Gu Feng at all. She suppressed her anger and greeted the 2 good morning. Gu Feng only nodded and then walked straight inside. The researcher walking with him, however, politely replied back, stepped up and quickly caught up with me. To walk together, Gu Tongzhou looked at this cold attitude of mine and couldn't help but feel a bit curious. In his impression, I was a very gentle and polite person, always the first to greet others when meeting them. Something so unusual definitely meant there was a catch. My attitude toward this guard made him intuitively feel that there was something going on between the 2 of us. But he wasn't the gossipy type. Since Gu Feng didn't say anything, he wouldn't ask either. The previous argument ended with Commander Liu making the final call, deciding to let Gu Feng test things out according to his own plan. Gu Tongzhou didn't say anything more either. Since everything had been settled, he seriously focused on doing his own part of the work well. As soon as the 2 stepped into the building, they went to do their respective tasks. If there was no other business, they normally wouldn't have much interaction. The daily research tasks were dry, but required high concentration. By the time I finished work, I was exhausted. When walking out the door, I didn't see Chen Muku, so I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although she couldn't cause any impact on my mood right now. The way her eyes looked at me back then made me fear that others would notice something, and I was too lazy to explain, not wanting others to know about that part of my past. That's why whenever I saw her, I got a bit of a headache. Luckily, she wasn't here today, returning to my room. I looked at the finished gloves on the table, thinking about how to give them to Zhao Xiaotang. Lately, she was nowhere to be seen, and I didn't know what she was busy with, but asking me to go to Zhao Xiaotang's room to find her myself felt a bit awkward to me. While I was hesitating, I heard a knock on the door. Talk about speak of the devil, and he shall appear. The moment I opened the door and saw Zhao Xiaotang, this exact proverb popped into my head, and I couldn't help but chuckle softly. Zhao Xiaotang was completely dazed, not understanding what was going on. She hesitantly opened her mouth to ask Comrade Gu, "What are you laughing at?" Yeah. Snapping back to reality, I shook my head. "Comrade Zhao, you came at the perfect time. I have a gift I wanted to give you." Saying that, I turned it around to go into the room to fetch the item, holding the pair of gloves. Zhao Xiaotang could hardly believe it, her face showing a mix of surprise and pure joy. Ultimately, joy took over. She hesitantly asked, "Is this for me?" I nodded. "But why are you gifting me this?" "To thank you for taking care of me. All this time, I've troubled you a lot, comrade. But you have never complained or shown any impatience at all, always patiently helping me solve my problems." I was truly incredibly grateful. Hearing his words of gratitude, Zhao Xiaotang shyly lowered her head and whispered, "This is all what I should be doing. Comrade Gu, you don't need to be like this. Yo, all." Though she said that, her hands didn't stop at all. She immediately put the handwear on, and it looked like a perfect fit. "Thank you, Comrade Gu. This is the first time someone has given me a gift." Seeing my gift being appreciated by someone else, I also felt very happy. I haven't fully learned my mom's skills, and my crafting isn't perfect. Please don't mind it. Zhao Xiaotang waved her hands repeatedly. "No way, this is already amazing." Then her eyes turned slightly sad, adding another sentence. "I've never even met my mom." I froze, not knowing how to comfort her, but she quickly took the initiative to change the subject. "I almost forgot the main reason I came. They have a ping pong tournament today. Aren't you going to participate?" Life at the base was simple, but it wasn't lacking at all, according to what Zhao Xiaotang said. After work, everyone would usually gather to play ping pong, basketball, or similar sports. But because winter was quite cold, they hadn't played in a while. So she didn't expect a tournament to be organized tonight. My eyes lit up and I nodded. Thus, the two of us walked together toward the ping pong hall. Zhao Xiaotang looked at me walking ahead, her eyes clearly showing a complicated and conflicted expression. The moment the two of them left, Chen Muku's figure appeared right at that spot. She had originally intended to find Gu Feng to talk, but she didn't expect to catch that scene. If Zhao Xiaotang bringing him food was just friends helping each other out, then what did Gu Feng gifting gloves to her mean Chen? Mukiu didn't want to admit it, but she had no choice but to admit that Gu Feng seemed to have fallen for someone else. The dull pain in her chest suddenly turned into a sharp blade, a gripping pain that made it impossible for her to breathe. Her two hands hanging by her sides trembled uncontrollably. She didn't know what to do or where to go, as if her brain had lost the ability to think, just standing there dazed on the spot. She didn't know how long she stood there until she snapped out of it, and I had once again appeared in front of her. When I saw Chen Muku standing in front of my room door, I was slightly stunned for a moment. It wasn't because of her appearance, but because of that soul leaving the body state of hers, secretly sighing my good mood. For the whole day was instantly ruined at this moment, but I still stepped forward to face her, annoyedly speaking up, "What are you doing here?" Chen Muku originally wanted to have a proper talk with me about the issues between us, but she didn't know if it was even necessary to talk anymore. So she just stared at me in a daze without opening her mouth. Since she didn't speak, I couldn't be bothered to care even more. Slipping past her, intending to go straight inside. Right at the moment, the door was about to close. I heard Chen Muku's trembling voice, "Gufunk, can we talk?" I intended to say there was nothing to say to her, but then I thought it might be good to make some things crystal clear. Otherwise, if I let Chen Muku keep blocking my path at the base, forever I wouldn't be able to stand it either. So I made way for Chen Muku to enter the room. "Come in and then talk." Chen Muku followed me into the room and sat down. I handed her a cup of tea. "If you want to say something, say it." "Gufeng, it was my fault. I'm sorry. Don't bring up the past anymore. Besides, there's nothing wrong about it anyway. Not loving someone isn't your fault. It's just that I saw through everything too late." Chen Muku immediately panicked upon hearing that. "It's not like that. I love you." I froze, and Gufeng burst out laughing. "What did you just say?" Chen Muku lowered her voice to explain. "Gufeng, I love you. It's just that I realized everything too late myself. It wasn't until you left that I discovered I had already fallen for you a long time ago. As for Ling Ran, I've already made things clear with him. It's all my fault. It's because I was too foolish." My gaze was a bit complicated. "You mean you now realize the person you love isn't Ling Ran, but me? So you ran all the way here because of me too? That's right. Gu Feng, I know I've done too many things wrong. Can you give me a chance to make it up to you? She looked at me with a gaze full of deep affection, the corner of my lips hooked into a mocking smile. But Chen Muku, I've long stopped loving you. My love for you was already eroded away day by day, month by month, until it completely ran dry under those cold gazes of yours. A candid conversation had utterly shattered all of Chen Muku's hopes. Her mind was filled with nothing but my sentence, I've long stopped loving you. How could that be? How could he say such cruel words? The person who clearly used to love her so deeply, how could he suddenly not love her anymore? Her mind was in a mess and she felt her limbs still screaming in pain. Her complexion was extremely terrible when she returned to her quarters, making Zhao Xiao Tang. Startled, she hurriedly pulled the other person to sit down and handed her a glass of hot water, asking with a worried voice, Comrade Chen, are you okay? Chen Muku felt angry again upon seeing this face, but still tried to tell herself that the issues between the two of them shouldn't drag others into it. So she told her with the expression that wasn't very good that she was fine, handed the glass back to her and lay down. Zhao Xiaotong originally wanted to ask if she needed to be taken to the infirmary, but seeing her like that, she ultimately didn't say anything more, turned off the lights and went to sleep. When night fell, the snow quietly started falling again at some point. Upon waking up in the morning, the snow had already accumulated into a layer of thick snow, yet it still showed no signs of stopping. He put on an extra layer of clothes, then wrapped his scarf, put on his gloves, and prepared for work. The moment he pushed the door open, everywhere was a vast expanse of white, blinding his eyes a bit. He suddenly remembered that in his past life he always wanted to watch the snow fall together with Chen Muku, but it was never fulfilled. Actually, he didn't care about the snow at all. But the people in the military compound kept saying that if you let your heads get covered in white together by the snow, then in this life it counts as growing old together. This made him subconsciously add a romantic tint to snowy days. But now he could only smile bitterly. Compared to romance, he still found a snow-free road much easier to walk on. Having to take one step and then slip 3 times like this truly made him want to go crazy. The snowy weather was bone-chilling, making the roads slippery and hard to move on. Who on earth actually likes these snowy days? By the time he was about to slip for the 3rd time, his resentment towards snowy days had reached its absolute peak. Passing through a downhill stretch of road, he carefully and cautiously inched forward step by step, yet due to a brief moment of carelessness, he slipped, ped, and almost tumbled over. Luckily, someone from behind caught him with one hand. He was just about to turn his head to say thank you, but as a result, he caught a glimpse of the person behind being Chen Muku, so he immediately pulled his hand away. Chen Muku noticed his action and could only let out a bitter smile. Even in this situation, he didn't want to have any contact with her at all. She felt her heart was being slowly sliced apart, hacked by 1,000 cuts, so painful that it made her suffocate a little. But when she saw him about to fall once again, she still couldn't help but reach out her hand to help. Yet another hand was faster than hers, supporting Comrade Gu. Careful, Zhao Xiaotong was quick-eyed and nimble-handed to support me, saving me from falling down. I saw the newcomer was her, so I smiled and expressed my thanks. This path is quite slippery, and there's no wall to hold on to. How about the two of us support each other as we walk, just for a short distance? Once we reach the flat path up ahead, it'll be easier for you to walk. The previous few times, the snow only fell in a thin layer, so when I went out, the snow had already been mostly trampled and melted by everyone. Therefore, I didn't expect that this path full of thick snow would be so difficult to walk on. Alone, it was truly very hard to walk down this slope, so I had to agree to Zhao Xiaotang's suggestion. After thanking her once again, I held onto her sleeve. The two of us moved forward together. Chen Muku stood rooted to the spot, blankly watching this scene. Not until the two of them had made it down to the flat ground, and my figure disappeared behind the corner did she manage to snap out of it. Her eyes were red and stinging from the sight. Her 2 hands clenched tightly, and she didn't move a single step. My attitude toward her and toward others was completely different. I treated everyone here very friendly, always bright with smiles. In just a few short months, I had already built up perfect, flawless social relationships. Whenever anyone mentioned him, they would call him Comrade Gu, both gentle and polite. And his personality is also very enthusiastic. Whoever marries him is truly deeply blessed. Every time she heard these words, she felt as if a knife was piercing her heart. She once had it for a brief moment, but now it seemed she had lost it forever. Being together for so many years like that, the final outcome was actually a forced divorce. Gufeng even hid it from her to come to this place. And furthermore, in the eyes Gufeng used to look at her, there was absolutely no affection left whatsoever. It was a coldness more distant than a stranger. Every time she thought about this, Chen Muku wished she could slap herself a few times. Why on earth was she so slow-witted? Back then, she recalled the past, when Gufeng would smilingly cook for her, but when she didn't even move a single chopstick. His disappointed expression. He once wanted to get close to her, but was hurt by her cold gaze and backed away, even though he had decided on the divorce. He still didn't want to let her go out of respect for his mother's words. But what did she do? Nothing but speaking absolute jerk-like words. She didn't dare to recall the scene at that time. Every time she did, her entire heart would clench tightly in pain. And she even openly treated Ling Ranwell right in front of him, always caring about Ling Ran in front of outsiders, never giving this rightfully wedded husband the respect he deserved just like that. Day by day, that burning heart was hurt to the point of being covered in nothing but deep scars. These images flashed through her mind one after another. Chen Muku really wanted to travel back in time to stop it, to stop herself from treating him like that. But she couldn't do it. Everything had already happened, and the damage had already been done. What she could do now was only make up for it, constantly making up for it, hoping that one day she could receive Wu Feng's forgiveness. I walked into the office, greeted everyone, and then went deep inside to look for Ku Tongzhou. Ku Tongzhou was still sitting inside as usual, reading yesterday's research report. Seeing me arrive, his face broke into a gentle smile, greeting me and asking if the road was difficult to walk today. I recalled my situation today, taking a step and then slipping 3 times, and nodded helplessly. It really is quite difficult. Ku Tongzhou chuckled softly. Keep an eye on your safety from now on. Being a few minutes late for work is totally fine. I nodded to signal I understood, ending the simple social greetings. The two of us didn't chat any further, but began discussing work. Ku Tongzhou handed yesterday's experimental data over for him to look at, which was completely different from the previous results. It was yet another useless set of data, with multiple experimental results having 0 similarities. It meant their research direction was wrong again. Both fell into silence. Last time he had fought hard during the argument, having placed high expectations on this research direction, but he didn't expect the results to still turn out like this. They had failed once again. Even though everyone says you must fail countless times to exchange it for ultimate success, this process of failing countless times could be said to be extremely agonizing for a person. Ku Tongzhou looked at his expression and didn't say, I told you it wouldn't work. He didn't kick him while he was down, or mock the fact that he insisted on trying. On the contrary, he gently comforted him. Actually, it's not completely useless, right? At least we've ruled out an incorrect direction. If you don't know how to comfort someone, just don't do it. When a team member came in to drop off documents and heard this, they really wanted to say that to Ku Tongzhou. But since the experimental results were bad, everyone's mood was terrible. So that team member didn't say anything further, put the things down, and walked out. Throughout the whole morning, both of them were thoroughly dejected, in the office unable to think of a new direction or find any new breakthroughs. This resulted in both of them being in the same office, without any arguments. Yet it was so quiet that it felt as if no one was there. By noon, Ku Tongzhou asked him if he wanted to go eat together, along with 2 other female comrades. He agreed. Thus, the 2 of them walked to the cafeteria together. I usually eat with the comrades in my team, most of the time with Ku Tongzhou. This time, although there were 2 unfamiliar female comrades, at first he didn't think there would be any issue, but as more and more judging eyes turned toward the 2 of them, I felt a bit unnatural all over. Ku Tongzhou was completely unaffected, solely focusing on eating while occasionally sharing some sudden ideas that popped into his head. Gradually, I stopped minding others as well, focusing entirely on our two-way discussion. The two talked with great enthusiasm. Their thoughts constantly clashed, creating new sparks and bringing a continuous stream of inspiration to both of them. Pretty soon, those judging eyes disappeared, leaving only Chen Muku sitting in the corner watching the conversation. Of the two who were talking and laughing happily, the chopsticks in her hand were almost snapped in half. Why hadn't she noticed before that I was so popular with women? With any woman he could talk and laugh cheerfully, except for her. Chen Muku suddenly realized that in the past she and he rarely talked. Furthermore, most of the conversations between the two were not very pleasant. She seemed to have rarely seen him show such a bright smile like this. When she was by his side, he always seemed cautious and careful, constantly suppressing his own emotions to cater to your erratic preferences. Even when doing the most intimate things, he would always prioritize your feelings first. As for you, you seemed to very rarely care about his feelings. Just like that, you lived way too selfishly, only doing what you wanted. There are things you can't think deeply about. The more you think, the more terrifying it gets. You actually, from within your own memories, couldn't even find a single trace showing that she had ever treated him well. She couldn't understand for the life of her what kind of wrong medicine she had taken back then, to be able to ignore all of that, thereby forcing someone who loved her so deeply to resolutely divorce her without a single shred of hesitation. The discussion between the two of them was still going on, but Chen Muku no longer had enough courage to look any further. Those gentle gazes that originally belonged solely to her in the past, he could now give to anyone. Except for you. She stood up and left the cafeteria. The weather outside was still extremely beautiful. But inside Chen Muku's heart, countless dark clouds had gathered as if ready to pour down. A heavy downpour on him at any moment to wash away everything she had. She blankly stared into the distance, suddenly feeling that the hope of winning back Gu Feng was truly way too slim. Lunch, interspersed with discussions, came to an end. The feeling of depression in Gu Feng's heart had vanished. He became full of enthusiasm again. When the two returned to the office in the afternoon, the comrades in the team all suspected that the two of them had been swapped compared to the dejected look. This morning, they were like two completely different people. Gu Feng quickly adjusted his emotions, even lifting everyone's spirits. He gathered everyone for a brief meeting, encouraging everyone not to get discouraged and not to give up, and that the current difficulties would surely be overcome. Victory in the future will definitely belong to us. An encouraging speech brought about an excellent effect. When everyone stepped out of the meeting room each, and every one of them was filled with determination. If this path doesn't work, then switch to another path. Everyone started racking their brains and searching through documents again, trying to find a correct direction as soon as possible. As long as the direction is right, then the rest is just a matter of time. The difficulty lies exactly in identifying this direction which so many people have been searching for one after another for so many years, yet still haven't found at all. Days just carelessly slipped through the cracks of time. By the time I realized it, the forest of cotton plants that the base had successfully cultivated had already begun to sprout and bud. Spring has arrived. He had been looking forward to spring for a very long time. Once it got warmer, he could go out for a stroll around the grounds, but he didn't expect that before his plan could even begin. The activities of the base had already rolled out first. During winter, it was too cold, so everyone could only gather occasionally to secretly play cards together or practice some simple indoor sports. After the weather warmed up, all recreational activities could be put on the schedule. Leading the way, the people from the logistics department announced that tonight everyone could watch an outdoor movie together. They would find an open space after dinner to set up the projection screen. This was definitely something everyone loved. Several female comrades in the team had already been excitedly talking about it since early morning, unable to hide their excitement. I also really enjoy watching movies, especially the kind where everyone gathers together like this. It has a very unique, peaceful atmosphere, making him feel exceptionally comfortable. After dinner, when he carried his small stool to the grounds, a huge crowd of people had already gathered there. Everyone brought along melon seeds or other snacks to share with one another. A group of people gathered chattering and chatting, while the children ran around and played in the distance. I felt this atmosphere was particularly good. In his past life, it was the same. He loved being in the military residential compound the most, during those times when they watched movies together. But later on, along with the development of society, most families had television, so these movie screenings were rarely organized by anyone anymore, and the relationships between people gradually grew distant. Everyone immersed themselves in their own world, and connections between people became so cold. Comrade Gu, these are melon seeds my family roasted ourselves. Do you want to grab a handful? The sudden voice, ringing out, brought him back to his senses. Looking at the completely unfamiliar face before him, the corners of my lips slightly hooked into a smile. I took a handful of melon seeds and said thank you. The movie was about to start screening, and he sensed someone sitting down right next to him. Turning his head to look, it turned out to be Chen Muku. He didn't say a word, quietly shifting his stool to the side a bit. Chen Muku didn't cling onto him further, and didn't even turn her head back to look at me. Her eyes kept staring straight at the screen ahead. Only her two hands constantly clenching tightly betrayed the anxiety in her heart. She knew full well she really shouldn't have come up here. I had bluntly stated that I didn't want to disturb his life anymore, and shouldn't get close again, but Chen Muku just couldn't do it. She stood behind, hesitating for a long time. And finally, right before the movie started, brought her stool up here, but just as expected. I moved away again. I only noticed Chen Muku on this side without expecting that, shifting over 2 steps put me almost shoulder to shoulder with Zhao Xiaotong. Zhao Xiaotong noticed it and hurriedly shifted to the other side a bit so that I wouldn't be too awkward. I looked at Zhao Xiaotong gratefully. Zhao Xiaotong leaned close to my ear and softly asked, Comrade Gu, did you and Comrade Chen know each other before? I shook my head. Nope. Then is there some conflict or issue between you two? Why do I feel like every time you see her, you take a detour? I shook my head again. No, your vibe check is wrong. The voices of the two talking were very quiet, but Chen Muku's hearing was extremely sharp and not a single word missed her ears. I was doing my best to stay away from her, completely wanting nothing to do with her anymore, and also not wanting others to know about our past. The person who used to go everywhere, wanting to brag that his partner was the most badass, Regimental Commander Chen, had now completely vanished. Your Gufeng didn't want a future for the two of them anymore. Even the past of the two of them. He didn't want it either. The movie ended very quickly. I watched it with great interest. And after it ended, I was still discussing the plot with Zhao Xiaotang. As for Chen Muku, she couldn't focus on the movie at all. Her mind was completely occupied with thinking about how she could make me forgive her. After going through this period of time, she no longer dared to hope for the luxury of bringing him back. As long as I didn't avoid her, she would already be satisfied. Seeing the two still engrossed in conversation, even though the movie had ended, the irritation in Chen Muku's heart flared up again. She walked over and pulled Zhao Xiaotang up. Comrade Zhao, the movie is over. Let's quickly go back, wash up and rest. I looked at Zhao Xiaotang suddenly being pulled up, not knowing what kind of crazy stunt Chen Muku was pulling this time. In the past, when I chased after her, she was completely cold to me. Now things went exactly her way. And we got divorced, yet she chased me all the way here. I had already talked frankly and openly with her, making everything crystal clear, but she still refused to leave, and even loitered in front of me every single day. Why didn't I realize before that Chen Muku had such an annoying side? To her, looking at the face I used to be so obsessed with. The more I look at it now, the more annoying it gets. I stood up, said goodbye to Zhao Xiaotang, and then went back to my room. The next day when I walked to the research building, I saw Chen Muku standing guard again. I let out a helpless sigh, still ignoring her as I walked into the building. I greeted the team members, and then focused entirely on getting to work. The thorough conversation with Ku Tongzhou, that time had paid off. The two of us had found a new direction, and recently started continuous testing, if successful. Perhaps the day of completing the mission is not far off. Once I bury myself in work, I become extremely focused, attentively recording the data. During times when I have no mental capacity to notice anything else, time flies by really fast. By the time I suddenly realized lunch hour had already passed. It wasn't until the team members finished eating and came back and greeted me, only then did I realize I had missed lunch. Actually, I didn't feel all that hungry, so I just decided to skip eating altogether, realizing I had been inside here for the entire morning. I needed to go outside to get some fresh air. As a result, the moment I reached the door, I saw Chen Muku holding a lunchbox standing and waiting downstairs. Seeing him come out, she hurriedly approached. Gufeng, I saw you didn't come downstairs today for the longest time, so you must have missed lunch. That's why I bought a portion for you. She held out the lunchbox she was clutching in her hands. I didn't accept it, and even took a step back to keep my distance. Thanks, but I'm not hungry. My attitude was still as cold as always. Chen Muku's eyes flashed with a hint of disappointment, but she quickly adjusted her emotions, smiling as she told him, how can you not eat? You should eat a little. These are all your favorite dishes. I was truly helpless. Taking a deep breath, I spoke up. Chen Muku, I already told you not to appear in front of me anymore. What on earth do you want? I was just worried you'd be hungry, so I brought you food. What did I do wrong? Why can you eat the food Zhao Xiaotang gives you, but you can't eat the food I bring Chen? Muku was driven into an absolute state of distress by this attitude of his. The words slipped out and she immediately realized something was off. She hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry, Gufeng. I didn't mean it that way. I looked at her with a stern expression, only leaving behind a sentence utterly ridiculous before turning around and walking away, leaving Chen Muku all by herself clutching the lunchbox and standing frozen in place. She felt a wave of pain coming from her abdomen. She looked down and saw a large area that had already turned bright red. Honestly, with this weather, food and soup didn't get cold easily anymore. But Chen Muku still wanted him to have hot dishes. To keep the lunchbox warm, she had hugged it inside her coat all along the way. She brought it here, yet I didn't even bother to glance at it. Chen Muku felt a bit heartbroken, but then she felt that this was exactly what she deserved, compared to what I had to endure. Suffered through all those years. Then this attitude of mine toward her could already be considered a blessing. So she shouldn't ask for too much. Just take it one step at a time. And one day, the ice between them will finally break. Cheering herself up in her heart, Chen Muku carried the lunchbox back to her quarters. The weather had warmed up, so the previous plan could finally be put into action. On the day off, I submitted an application to go out and an application to use a Phoenix bicycle. In the garage of the unit, there were a few Phoenix bicycles, specifically prepared to make traveling convenient for everyone. Whoever wanted to use one just had to apply to borrow it. I had wanted to check out the grottos for a long time, so I asked around among my colleagues beforehand. They suggested riding a bike there, as I could make the round trip within the day. When submitting the report to Ku Tongzhou asked around as standard procedure. Going out for what? When will you be back? Just wandering around the grottos nearby. After checking them out, I'll be back right away. After a few simple questions, Ku Tongzhou nodded and stamped the approval for me, then started checking in on me as a friend. Do you know where the location is? If you go alone and get lost, it won't be good. The colleagues in the team roughly pointed out the location for me, so I won't get lost. I responded to his concern, just as he turned around intending to leave. Ku Tongjo called him back. I suddenly remembered I also have some business over there. If you don't mind, let's go together tomorrow. I obviously didn't mind. Having someone familiar along would further prevent the possibility of him getting lost. The two of them settled it just like that. When I walked out of the building, my mood was exceptionally good, especially when looking up at this cloudless clear blue sky. Right then, before I could take a few steps, Zhao Xiaotang also walked up. What's got you so happy? I honestly replied that tomorrow I'd go to the grottos to hang out. Zhao Xiaotang heard this and her eyes clearly showed excitement. Tomorrow I'm also going to do some work with Comrade Q. Can I go with you? I obviously agreed. Then that works out perfectly. Let's just go together. After making the appointment, he prepared to head back. As a result, unexpectedly, after taking just a few steps, the smile on his face suddenly vanished. Chen Muku was standing not far away, waiting for him. I let out a helpless sigh, not understanding why Chen Muku was acting like a lingering ghost. He felt he had already spoken clearly enough. And furthermore, in his impression, Chen Muku was not the type of person who would persistently cling to someone. She was originally someone who despised this kind of behavior the most. He planned to just walk past as if nothing happened, but Chen Muku spoke up first. I heard you submitted an application to go out. Where do you plan to go? Her news was sharp indeed. I couldn't help but secretly sneer. The words that came out didn't save her face at all. Comrade Chen, this matter has nothing to do with you, right? Chen Muku was choked up for a moment. She explained in a low voice. I didn't mean anything else. I'm just worried that you all alone, in a strange land, will run into danger. There's no need to trouble yourself with this concern. I'm not going alone, and there won't be any danger either. After saying that, he didn't even bother to pay attention to her anymore, leaving just like that. Chen Muku wanted to ask why he wasn't going alone, and who he was going with, but every single question choked up in her throat. She could only watch that cold figure leave. But she had already gone to the office earlier to complete her permission slip, intending to go with him tomorrow, secretly harboring the intention of creating a private space for the two of them, though most of it was still out of worry for his safety. The next day, when Chen Muku wheeled her bicycle out, she only saw the figures of me, Q Tongcho and Zhao Xiaotang fading into the distance. Chen Muku's hands clutched the handlebars tightly, using so much force, as if she wanted to snap the handlebars right off. I had absolutely no idea Chen Muku was tailing behind me, only focusing on following the original plan. The journey alongside Q Tongjo was extremely pleasant. At work, Q Tongjo was like a hardcore research maniac, but in real life, he was actually super witty and fun. All kinds of jokes and clever banter kept flowing out, non-stop, making me and Zhao Xiaotang laugh uncontrollably. The three of us crossed over one hill after another, and finally spotted a village. After traveling such a long distance, all three of our throats were completely parched, so we stopped by to ask for a cup of water, chatted a bit with the villagers, who spoke the local dialect, and then hit the road again. The path to the grottos wasn't considered too far, but the road surface was rough and not easy to ride on at all. Even though my cycling skills weren't bad, I was still dripping with sweat all over. I, along with Ku Tongzhou and Zhao Xiaotang, split up at a fork in the road. Before leaving, Ku Tongzhou thoughtfully asked Comrade Gu, "Until what time do you plan to wander around here? Do you need me to come back and find you after I'm done to meet up? After that, we can head back together." I shook my head. No need. I already remember the way, so I can go back by myself. Hearing this, Ku Tongzhou didn't force it, only telling me to head back early before riding his bike away. I finally reached the grottos. At noon, grabbed a quick bite at a small roadside shop, and then walked into the grottos alone. Countless caves like time capsules were all telling the stories of this place, holding an endless charm. The murals also had broad themes and rich diverse content. For a moment, I was completely dazed by the sight. He had heard his mother tell him countless times about the stories of this place, but none of it was as mind-blowing as witnessing it with his own eyes. Her hometown happened to be right here, but later followed her father traveling around, so she rarely returned home. He saw his mother sitting by the window, looking at the moon more than once. When he was little, he curiously asked his mother, "What are you looking at, Mom?" "Looking at the moon. What's so pretty about it?" "In the moon, you can see the people you miss, and you can see home." Only later did he know that his mother did it because she was homesick, missing the home that she later on rarely had the chance to return to. He knew his mother really wanted to visit just one more time. But because his father's work was too busy, even when she passed away, she couldn't gaze one last time upon the home she always held dear in her heart. That's why his mother never got tired of telling him stories about this desert wasteland, of Gobi telling him about the murals and grottos, making him develop so much longing, always thinking that one day he definitely must come to see it, to see the place where his mother used to live. Now I have finally reached this place, finally getting to witness it with my own eyes. This place is indeed just like what my mother described, carrying an infinite charm and beauty. While I was immersed in the art, Chen Muku had quietly approached the outside of the grottos. She didn't go inside at all. She knew I wouldn't be happy to see her. So she didn't want to become an eyesore to me. But no matter how much I hated her, she would never ever leave me alone in this strange, unfamiliar land. She was worried about my safety. Even though seeing me go with someone else made her a bit sour, she still followed behind without any hesitation because if anything were to happen to me by chance, she would regret it for the rest of her life. Those times keeping watch outside were truly not easy. Countless midgets kept biting her as if she was the only blood supply around here. Yet she still had to constantly monitor the situation, guarding against the moment she wasn't paying attention, and I might just leave by myself. She had to be even more careful not to let me find out. Otherwise, I would definitely get angry again, and furthermore, who knows, I might use harsh measures to force her to stop tailing me anymore, so this trip of his would pretty much be for nothing. I deliberately stayed inside the grottos for quite a while, and by the time I came out, the sun had already set. He secretly thought to himself that this was bad. Originally, he had only planned to take a quick look and head back, but unexpectedly, he got so absorbed in watching that he completely lost track of time. Thus, he hurriedly rode his bike back. The evening twilight fell, faster and faster with every turn of the wheels. Anxiously, he sped up and pedaled faster, unexpectedly hitting a small mound of dirt and flipping the bike. Logically speaking, a wipeout on a Phoenix bicycle wouldn't cause much of an injury, and he would just need to pick the bike up and keep going. But the annoying part was that I was in a bit of a hurry just now. So when the bike crashed, I ended up spraining my ankle. A bone-piercing pain shot up from his ankle, hurting so much that sweat broke out on his forehead right away. Just as he was in a pinch, an anxious voice called out Gufeng's name. Right after that came the sound of a bicycle being tossed aside and the sound of footsteps. Rushing over, forcing myself, I lifted my head, and Chen Muku's face filled with absolute panic appeared right before my eyes. Gufeng, how are you? Where are you hurt at? She moved the bicycle that was crushing my body away. Where does it hurt? Are you trying to stand up? Can you even stand? I leaned on her and tried to stand up, but a wave of bone-piercing pain made him cry out loud. Chen Muku didn't dare to move him around carelessly anymore. She let him sit down right on the spot. I sat and rested for a bit, and only when I felt that the pain wasn't that intense anymore did I speak up. I probably just sprained my ankle. It's nothing serious. I just need to rest for a bit. Chen Muku waited for him to compose himself, quickly calculating the distance in her mind. Finally, she decided, let's head back. Maybe that village has a doctor. Let's check it out first and then decide. But if we head back, we most likely won't make it back tonight. Even if we can't make it back, at least we'll have a place to stay. With your current condition, you can't ride a bike anyway, right? I couldn't refute her. So it ended up with Chen Muku riding the bike and carrying me, while I sat on the back seat, guiding that other bike along as we move forward. Although doing this wasn't very safe. The unit's bicycle couldn't just be abandoned here. If the bike got stolen, it would be a huge trouble. To keep me from falling off the backseat, Chen Muku had no choice but to pedal a bit slower, and on top of that, because of this, the distance that wasn't originally far ended up wasting quite a lot of time. By the time the two reached the village, it was already getting dark and many villagers had already packed up to sleep. Chen Muku had no choice but to find a house with the lights still on, to knock on the door. Hello, comrade, we're just passers-by. May I ask if it's convenient to open the door? After a few knocks, the door opened from the inside. A man carrying an oil lamp to light the way observed the two of them and then spoke in the local dialect. He asked, "What are you guys doing?" Chen Muku was dazed for a moment and then responded, "Comrade, we're passers-by. My partner accidentally sprained his ankle, so I wanted to ask if there's a doctor in the village who can take a look." Seeing Chen Muku's sincere explanation, the man once again carefully examined the faces of the two of them for a moment before inviting them into the house. "Come inside the house first. It's dark now and very cold outside. You two got lucky. It just so happens someone came to see a patient, and the barefoot doctor is right here at my house. Let him take a look for you." After saying that, he went to the other room to call the person. Although it was a bit tough for me to listen, I could still roughly understand, knowing that the man went to call a doctor for me. I then sat on the chair and waited quietly. In no time, a doctor carrying a medicine box walked in. The clothes on his body were still loosely put on, looking as though he was just about to go to sleep when he got called up. I felt apologetic and said, in the middle of the night like this, "I've troubled you, doctor." The doctor waved his hand. "What are you saying, comrade? Saving people is a doctor's natural duty." Hearing him say that, I didn't say anything more and just smiled in response. The doctor gently pressed a few times on my ankle and asked about the pain. I answered every single question and the doctor nodded. I answered each question one by one and the doctor nodded, then came to the conclusion that it was a dislocation. He said it just needed to be popped back in place, saying that his hands began to move. With a loud crack, I felt the pain completely take my breath away for a moment, so much so that I even forgot to scream. Chen Mu, Q seeing his simple yet brutal technique, wanted to say, "Wait," but before she could even get it out, it was already over. She saw my face completely contorted in pain, so she hurriedly leaned down and asked, "Are you okay?" Gu Feng, where does it hurt? I was hurting so bad that I couldn't even answer her question. Instead, the doctor spoke up. "It's fine. This is completely normal. Once this sudden wave of pain passes, he'll be able to walk normally again." Only after a long while did I finally seem to regain feeling in my body. I let out a heavy sigh. "Let me help you stand up and try to see if there's still any discomfort anywhere," the doctor said, seeing that he had recovered some energy. Chen Muku then helped him up. I tried moving it around a little bit and realized that it really didn't hurt anymore. So he pushed Chen Muku's hands away, taking 2 steps forward on his own. After confirming that he could move around normally, he hurriedly turned around to thank the doctor. "Thank you, doctor. It doesn't hurt anymore and there's no discomfort at all." The doctor nodded. "Just be a bit careful lately. Don't dislocate it again." "Yes, I'll be careful," now that the sprained ankle issue was fully resolved. I stood up to say goodbye to everyone. "Thank you all so much for today. It's getting late, so we won't trouble you any further." Chen Muku was dazed. "Are you planning to leave right now?" I nodded. Chen Muku looked at the sky outside and advised maybe we should head back tomorrow instead. "The approved time to go out is for today only. If we return tomorrow, we might get disciplined." I firmly shook my head. He didn't want to get disciplined himself, and even less did he want his own issues to cause Chen Muku to get disciplined. Therefore, it's best to head back today. But Chen Muku absolutely refused to back down on this matter. Heading back right now is extremely unsafe. The doctor beside them also helped to persuade this comrade. "The female comrade is right. Going out at this hour is way too dangerous. There might even be wild wolves in the forest. Even if you get disciplined, it's still better than losing your life." I was just about to say that wouldn't happen, but as if to illustrate the doctor's words, the cry of a strange animal suddenly echoed from afar, making my hair stand on end. He was someone who always followed the rules, putting orders first from childhood to adulthood, always locking himself in frameworks to survive. But given the current situation, it seemed the only way was to wait until tomorrow to return. The doctor was right. Even if they got punished, it was still better than losing their lives. So the 2 of them had to stay over at this villager's house. The villager's house only had 2 earthen rooms, leaving no spare brick bed to give up for the 2 of them to stay. I didn't mind either, as long as there was a place to take shelter. After all, it was better than freezing out there. In the end, they decided to sit in the kitchen for the night. The honest and simple man kept using the local dialect to apologize, saying that he had caused them to suffer. If it were normal times, they might have found another house to crash for the night. But now everyone was already fast asleep, so it was embarrassing to trouble others. Hearing him say that, I hurriedly waved my hands. Originally, it was us who suddenly came and bothered them. Yet they kept constantly apologizing to us, making me feel extremely awkward. "You guys being able to give us a place to take shelter like this is already very good. We are extremely grateful." Finally, after a while of back and forth, the man also left. In the kitchen, only me and Chen Muku were left. Now that everything had settled down, the 2 people sat in the kitchen, facing each other without saying a word. For a long while, there was only the sound of firewood crackling and popping. The firelight illuminated the faces of the 2 of them, but neither could see clearly the expression of the other. I let out a soft sigh, being the first one to break the silence. "Thank you for today." Chen Muku didn't react at first. After snapping out of it, she hurriedly spoke. "No need to thank me. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters." I didn't ask why she showed up there. The answer was already too obvious, and asking further would only make things more awkward for both of us. Therefore, I avoided that topic. "Tell me, how long has it been since we last sat down together peacefully to chat like this?" Chen Muku seriously reminisced. It seemed that over all these years, the first time the 2 of them calmly sat down to eat and chat was on the night I had made up my mind to leave. But that time, they only finished half of it. Ling Ran got a fever, so he left in a hurry. Looking back later, she finally realized that back then I already wanted to say a proper goodbye to him. Yet even that final goodbye, he abandoned it halfway through. In the end, thinking about this, his heart clenched, unable to feel resentful. Her lips parted, but she didn't know what to say. Apologies had been said thousands of times, but none could make up for the trauma that had been caused. Both fell silent for a long time before I spoke up again. "Chen Muku, let go of the past and move forward. I've already moved on, so don't keep trapping yourself in the past either." Chen Muku didn't say a word, neither saying yes nor saying no. The 2 of them just silently sat there until morning. Early the next morning, the 2 immediately said goodbye to the host and hurriedly rode their bikes back to the base. Once I arrived at the base, I immediately rushed to Ku Tongzhou's office to admit my mistake and clearly explain the reason. "I'm truly sorry, Comrade Q. Last night I sprained my ankle and couldn't make it back in time. So I had to stay over at a villager's house for the night. Comrade Gu, I believe you, but you already know the rules here. I need to ask you a few questions. First, is there anyone who can testify? No, I had already anticipated the situation. After a moment of hesitation, I spoke up. Within the base, Comrade Chen Muku can testify. The villager's family, who let me stay over outside the base, can also testify. Q Tongzhou didn't seem to expect this situation, asking back in surprise. Why is Comrade Chen Muku able to testify? I let out a soft sigh, gritted my teeth and said, because last night we were together. Q Tongzhou still hadn't recovered his senses after this shocking piece of news, and I added another, even more earth-shattering fact. Comrade Chen Muku is my ex-wife. We used to be married. Q Tongzhou's voice cracked for a moment. Why has the organization never mentioned this in your profile? This section wasn't recorded either. Originally, I didn't want to say these things, but since it involved the authenticity of the testimony, he had no choice but to answer. Commander Liu's side knows about this. As for other things, when I applied for the transfer order, it was already handled at that time, because I didn't want others to know about this past. Since Commander Liu's side already knew about it, Q Tongzhou had nothing left to say, only telling him to go write a statement of the situation first. When the time comes, someone will be sent to verify the situation. There's no other intention. It's purely for the records. I nodded to indicate. I understood the rules, then left the office. I thought everything would just pass like that. But unexpectedly, a few days later, I was urgently called to Commander Liu's office. I was a bit dazed, not understanding what was going on, but looking at Commander Liu's posture. It seemed ominous. I didn't know what had happened. But this quiet atmosphere made me even more anxious. So I cautiously asked the commander, Chief, did you call me here for something? Commander Liu didn't say anything, only keeping a scrutinizing gaze on me. Instead of answering, he asked back, Comrade Gu, when you came here, you signed the confidentiality agreement, right? I didn't understand what he meant, but still cooperatively replied, yes. Commander Liu nodded and then continued, then do you know what kind of crime leaking high-level secrets is? Hearing this, a bad feeling welled up in my heart. Sure enough, I heard Commander Liu speak again. We have discovered that someone is leaking the core secrets of the research project to the outside. And among those who recently applied to go out and have access to the core secrets, there are only you and Comrade Q. Comrade Q has been here for many years, so I know very well what kind of person he is. Yet you kept silent and let such a monstrous crime be pinned on him. I'm innocent, Commander, I shouted out loud. You can go investigate. I only went out to look at the grottos for a bit. I absolutely had no intention of betraying the organization, but we already investigated. The situation is that the villager said they never saw you. You lied. My eyes widened in disbelief. This is impossible. There must be a misunderstanding in this. Perhaps there is a misunderstanding. But I'm sorry, Comrade Gu. We need you to cooperate with our investigation. After saying that, he gestured with his eyes to the two people behind him. Just like that, I was taken away. He was locked in a solitary confinement room without having any time to explain himself, completely unable to react in time. His mind was a mess. On one hand, he completely couldn't understand why things had come to this point. He thought someone would come to interrogate and investigate, at which point he could explain and clear up everything. But for 3 consecutive days, there wasn't a single bit of news except for the fact that someone brought food and drinks on time. He didn't get to see Commander Liu, nor did he see Q Tongzhou. He wanted to ask for information from the food delivery guy, but that person remained dead silent and refused to disclose anything to him. In a situation where I was completely cut off from the outside world like this, I was about to go crazy. The silence was soul-crushing. Finally, after 5 days, I got to see Q Tongzhou. He had a whole pile of explanations ready, but didn't get to use a single sentence. After Q Tongzhou walked in with a deeply apologetic look, that comrade spoke up. I'm truly sorry, Comrade Gu. You've suffered. It's fine now. You can leave. Being locked up in here for a week for absolutely no reason without any interrogation, and suddenly being told he could leave. My face was filled with doubt. The annoyance was clearly shown on my face. I wanted to ask what on earth was going on. Q Tongzhou was clearly here to explain this matter, so he waved his hand to dismiss the others, slowly starting to recount, we've investigated it clearly. This matter has nothing to do with you. I'm truly sorry for making you suffer. Then who did it? Someone you wouldn't expect. Someone who used you. Within Q Tongzhou's voice, there was an unsuppressible anger. This made me even more curious. Do I know them? Q Tongzhou sneered and gave the answer. More than just know her. It's your ex-wife Chen Muku? I froze, thinking I had misheard, instinctively blurting out, no way. Even though the marriage between him and Chen Muku was a total failure, he knew very well what kind of person Chen Muku was. She was patriotic, dedicated to her work, and always put the country first. How could she do this kind of thing? Q Tongzhou was stunned for a brief moment. He thought that based on my attitude toward Chen Muku. Upon hearing the news that Chen Muku used me, I would be furious. But unexpectedly, I spoke up to defend her right away. She has already confessed, and even gave up all the details. Kutong, Zhou explained. Are there no other loopholes? That day, she was always with me. Perhaps you guys should also listen to my testimony. I didn't understand why Chen Muku would plead guilty to something that didn't even happen, but he wanted to win her a glimmer of hope to live. You only met her when it was almost dark, but she had already gone out since early morning. Your testimony means nothing, because it doesn't fall within her crime-committing time frame. She didn't just take the blame herself, but also helped him escape any involvement completely clean. I understood that Chen Muku did this to help him escape trouble. But this method of hers was no different from seeking her own death. Can I see her for a moment? I asked frankly. He didn't need Chen Muku to sacrifice herself like this for him. Kutongzhou didn't say whether it was possible or not, but only gave some sincere advice. I don't advise you to go see her at this time. I have things I want to ask her. My gaze was firm and straightforward, making Kutongzhou's heart shudder slightly. As he looked at me, let me go ask the commander for his opinion. If the chief agrees, only then can the two of you meet. I nodded in thanks, then went back to my quarters first to clean up and wash up a bit. Being locked up in a dark cell for so many days, he felt like his entire body stank. Near dusk, Kutongzhou finally came to find him, announcing that he could go see Chen Muku. He then followed the other man to the front door of another prison cell. Kutongzhou said, "Comrade, go on in yourself." He would wait for him outside. I expressed my thanks. When walking through the door and seeing Chen Muku, his anger couldn't be suppressed, but seeing her exhausted and worn out appearance, his voice tried to be as gentle as possible. Why did you have to take upon yourself this baseless crime? Chen Muku gave a bitter smile, but the words that came out were infuriating. How do you know it's baseless? What if I really did it? My anger instantly flared up, and my volume became noticeably louder. Chen Muku, I'm in no mood to joke with you. Do you understand the severity of this matter? Do you know what kind of ending you will face? I know. Her voice was calm but carried a bit of grievance. Hearing that, I let out a soft sigh. If you already knew, why did you still do it? Because I couldn't find any better way. They already locked you up, and I couldn't just stand by and watch them torture you. I'd rather be the one being tortured. I felt helpless. Everything hasn't even been investigated clearly yet. How could they possibly torture me? This is a new era, nobody forces confessions anymore. You should know this point better than I do. But they didn't let me see you, so I didn't know how your situation inside was. I knew she did it for me, so I couldn't truly stay mad at her. I took a deep breath. I'm asking what we should do now. You took all of this upon yourself. And then what are you? Planning to go to your death for this baseless crime? 3223. This time, Chen Muku no longer joked or avoided it. She seriously said, I won't. There are still many mysteries remaining in this matter. Before everything is completely cleared up, I'll be fine. You don't need to worry about me. Just focus on doing your job well. Don't do anything extra. And don't care about any of my business anymore, to avoid this matter dragging you down again. I was about to say something more, but Kutongzhou pushed the door open and walked in. Comrade Gu, time's up. I can only give the two of you this much time. I had no choice but to follow Kutongzhou and leave the room. After finishing the chat with Chen Muku, my mood became even worse. Seeing me like this, Kutongzhou couldn't bear it, so he spoke up to comfort me. Don't think too much. You can know a person's face, but not their heart. Judging a person wrong is not your fault, comrade. I gave a bitter smile and shook my head. On this matter, I trusted Chen Muku. It absolutely wasn't that I misjudged her, but rather that Chen Muku had sacrificed herself for me to this extent. He was very depressed. To him, from the moment he decided to leave, the two of them no longer had any relationship. But right now, he had no way to tell Q. Tongzhou, nor did he intend to explain anything further. The two parted ways at the crossroads. I headed back to my room on my own, only to run into Zhao Xiao Tang, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, standing at the door. Holding a lunchbox, she stood in front of the door, looking a bit awkward. I saw you hadn't come to the cafeteria to eat for a long time, and didn't know what happened. So I came here every day to wait. I finally successfully waited for you. I was slightly dazed. Thank you, Comrade Zhao. Zhao Xiaotang shook her head to indicate no need to thank her, and anxiously asked, what on earth happened? Why haven't you shown up these past few days? I realized that the news had been locked down, and the others had absolutely no idea what had happened, so I had to brush it off to get it over with. It's nothing. I was sent elsewhere to study for a few days. That's good then. I thought something had happened. Comrade Chen Muku, who is in the same room as me, has also not been seen for a long time. Speaking toward the end, her voice grew smaller and smaller as if whispering softly. Hearing this name from someone else's mouth, I gave a bitter smile. and didn't say anything more. The two exchanged a few simple greetings and bid farewell. That night, I tossed and turned in bed, unable to close my eyes at all as countless thoughts overwhelmed me. I couldn't think of any way to break this deadlock. If the real culprit behind this case isn't caught, Chen Muku will likely face a firing squad. The country has never shown any mercy to spies. Carrying Chen Muku's life on my shoulders was even more painful than letting me seek death myself. I couldn't help but wonder, wanting to ask God if giving me a second chance at life was just to make me die in an even more brutal way. Since the investigation cleared me of any involvement, my work duties were quickly restored. Standing under this building once again, I instinctively looked over at the sentry. He smiled and greeted me, but it was someone I didn't know. It was no longer Chen Muku. I took a deep breath and replied to him with a smile, then stepped into the building. This matter was kept under wraps very well. The other members of the research team had no idea. They warmly approached and asked me where I had been lately. What did Comrade Q say anyway? Instead of answering directly, I fished for info. First, he said you had some personal matters and asked for leave. I just went along with that explanation of his. I asked for leave indeed to handle some personal matters, but they're all settled now. My colleague didn't ask further, but instead started complaining about everything. Good thing you're back. You have no idea. Recently, Comrade Q has been like a madman. He worked himself to total exhaustion and put massive pressure on us at the same time. We were about to crack. I smiled and comforted them with a few casual words, then told everyone to get to work. Q Tongzhou was a complete sci-fi nerd when it came to research, and ever since he arrived, he made sure all the miscellaneous and small tasks fell entirely on my shoulders. He only focused on the experiments, so the team members actually had a better relationship with me and were much closer to me. Usually I didn't act like a boss, which is why they dared complain to me so openly, like that. But right now I was totally not in the mood, having to force a smile the entire time. My mind was completely filled with Chen Muku's situation, wondering how she was doing now. Since that visit, our MC was no longer allowed to visit her. A few days later, I heard that Chen Muku was about to be transferred elsewhere for further investigation. He hesitated for a long time, but finally went to beg Commander Liu anyway. He wanted to go see her off just in case this was their final meeting. He didn't want to live with any more regrets. On the day Chen Muku was put on the helicopter, the weather was unusually gloomy with thick fog covering everything, as if wanting to submerge this entire city into a whirlpool. I looked at the Chen Muku in front of me, who had lost a lot of weight, and for a moment I didn't know what to say. On the contrary, Chen Muku smiled at him. Within that smile, it was filled with gentleness. She softly said, "Don't worry, nothing bad will happen." She said that, but in reality, she didn't have much hope of being able to make it back alive. After all, this matter was extremely complicated. If it could be investigated clearly, she wouldn't be transferred away from here. Therefore, after weighing it for a while, she still spoke up to beg. "Gu Feng, if I can return safely this time, please forgive me." She knew she shouldn't take advantage of this situation. She despised this behavior of her own, but she truly wanted to get my forgiveness, not wanting to pass away, while still carrying his hatred. At the final moment, I still couldn't hold back my tears. With a choked voice, I said, "I've never hated you, having lived through 2 lifetimes. Time had already healed everything." He no longer had any resentment toward Chen Muku. Everything was just fate. Accepting it calmly was enough. The farewell between the two of them was interrupted when the escorts approached. Chen Muku finally left only one last sentence: "Live your life well." Then she followed the guards onto the plane. Since then, I never received any news about Chen Muku again. I threw myself back into work as usual, except instead of just one research madman, there were now 2. Our MC and Q Tongzhou seemed to be competing to see who could bury themselves in the lab longer. Almost both of them forgot to eat and sleep. Desperately needed to find something to do. He couldn't stop, because the moment he stopped, his mind would be completely filled with Chen Muku's image. Perhaps she would sacrifice herself for him, and that thought almost pushed him to the brink of insanity. He didn't dare think any further, only able to constantly find things to do so that his mind would stop thinking. Everyone in the team, seeing the situation of the two of them, was both filled with admiration and complaining to high heaven, but honestly, they were fired up by the passion of both of them. So they followed the two, putting all their effort into working. Under that atmosphere, the experiment achieved rapid progress to an extraordinary degree. When the first small-scale launch test was successful, everyone was stunned because they couldn't believe it. Perhaps because happiness came too suddenly, everyone didn't dare believe their own eyes, to the point that the entire hall was silent for half a minute. Then, without knowing from whom, the first cheer erupted, and after that, non-stop cheers rang out, along with the sounds of crying out of sheer joy. Q Tongzhou and I were no exception. The two of us looked at each other, both seeing hot tears in each other's eyes, and at the same time this good news arrived. after I returned from work. I saw Chen Muku right in front of my room door. I rubbed my eyes in disbelief, looking over and over several times, before confirming that person was truly Chen Muku. I couldn't control myself and ran toward her, like someone who had been in the dark for too long, finally welcoming the light. The moment I actually saw her, my heart that had been hanging in midair for so long could finally be put at ease. Seeing this, Chen Muku couldn't help but feel heartbroken, looking at me standing dazed in front of her after running over. She spoke up to comfort me. "It's fine now, don't worry. Everything has been investigated clearly, right? You've been reinstated, right?" The questions came in a rush and urgently. Hearing that, Chen Muku felt her nose tingle. She softly replied, "Yes, it's fine now. Everything is clear." Then who on earth did it? I don't know either whether Chen Muku ultimately knew the details or not, but he wanted an answer. As a result, hearing Chen Muku's reply, "It's someone you wouldn't expect," I froze. Why did this answer sound so familiar? Not being sure, I spoke up and asked, "Do I know them?" Chen Muku didn't beat around the bush either, and softly blurted out a name, Zhao Xiaotang. "What?" I gasped in utter shock. After snapping back to reality, I immediately covered my mouth tightly. By the time I spoke again, my voice was trembling. How could it be her? How could she even get close to these sophisticated materials? Because I was so completely astounded, I poured out a torrent of questions. Chen Muku only said one thing, and he instantly understood the crux of the matter. However, nobody noticed that. That day was the day to go purchase daily necessities. On that day, Zhao Xiaotang could freely go out, without needing to report, because this was an already arranged schedule. Therefore, nobody suspected her going out, let alone thinking along those lines. I learned from Chen Muku's mouth that Zhao Xiaotang actually never committed treason by colluding with foreigners, because she herself was originally from another country. She was a spy, planted and trained by them, in long country since childhood. Since the background check process for researchers was too strict, she used the identity of an ordinary logistics soldier to infiltrate. After that, she further utilized her clever communication advantages, 3,488, to build good relationships with everyone. She was the one in charge of going out to make purchases, and was also someone who knew how to handle social relations very well. She knew the base better than anyone. No matter where she appeared, nobody ever suspected her. Famous for having great interpersonal relationships, her contacting anyone was completely natural and reasonable, thanks to her high EQ and sweet talk. Everyone was willing to pour out their hearts to her with just a few casual words of chit-chat she could extract the information, which couldn't be more normal. In the end, she managed to gather the intel and planned to use that day to leak it out. But unexpectedly, she was intercepted by the state, so she immediately colluded with the inside contacts in the village to dump all the blame on my head. I couldn't describe my emotions at this moment, only able to stand dazed for a long time after listening. Zhao Xiaotang was the first person our MC met when he arrived here. She behaved properly, politely, and elegantly. Honestly, being someone who made anyone contacting her feel very comfortable, but nobody could have expected that all of that was intentional training, all for the sake of gathering intelligence. Her face appeared in his mind with that bright smile, telling him that this place was very nice, telling him to just let her know if he needed anything, holding a lunchbox in front of his room door and saying, "I saw that you hadn't eaten yet." Every single scene flashed through his head like a movie. To say he wasn't moved at all would be a total lie. His sincerity was once again exchanged for betrayal. One let out a soft chuckle, helpless, but within that smile it contained immense bitterness. Chen Muku didn't know how to comfort him, only able to look at him anxiously. Then what kind of ending will she face? "Oti," I softly muttered, as if asking yet also as if talking to myself. But Chen Muku still gave him an answer. "You already know." Yes, he knew very well. There was no need to ask this question anymore. A spy is someone who cannot be tolerated. There will be no empathy for them, nor any pity. It's just a bit of a shame that such a good person turned out to be someone who came to harm our country. Many days later, the news about Zhao Xiaotang spread across the entire base. Everyone was stunned. The colleagues in the team couldn't believe it and came to ask him. He gave confirming answers one by one. Everyone was shocked at first, followed by outraged because she turned out to be a spy, and also outraged by her deception, because every single person was more or less connected to her. And the people in this team had an especially good relationship with her, because they were her primary targets to fish for information. This matter just passed by like that. When Zhao Xiaotang was taken away, I didn't go watch, only hearing from my colleagues that she insisted on bringing a pair of gloves when leaving. Her acting skills finally slipped up, and that was all. The base conducted another investigation, double-checking everyone's backgrounds, and a group of people was transferred away. Chen Muku was one of them, when she came to find me for one last farewell. Both of us were unusually calm. Chen Muku let out a helpless sigh. Softly speaking up, Gufeng, I'm about to leave. Where are you planning to go? I'm being transferred back to my old unit. The organization feels that I'm no longer suitable to stay here. Letting me go back to Northern Shanxi is also good. Go back then, go back there and be a good regiment commander. An answer not outside Chen Muku's expectations. She gave a bitter smile, trying to act relieved as she asked him when he would return. I let out a soft sigh. I don't know, maybe I won't come back anymore. The conversation ended right there. Only after a long while did I hear Mukio force out a single word, okay, followed by a very cautious question. Can I make one last request? I raised my eyebrows and she said, can you go stargazing with me one last time? Chen Muku said hesitantly. But I decisively replied, sure. The two climbed to the top of the mountain. The stars sparkled across the entire sky and the sound of cicadas chirping in the night became even more distinct. In the quiet space, fireflies flickered in the distance, as if keeping the two company. Everything had the most romantic beauty, but that was actually the final farewell for both of them. It's been so long since I've been this relaxed. It feels like the breeze blowing through carries the fresh scent of grass, trees and flowers. He lay on the grass looking up at the sky. Neither of them said a word. Suddenly a shooting star streaked across. Chen Mukio raised her hand to make a wish. I felt a bit surprised in my heart that someone who never believed in gods or Buddha could actually do something like this. Chen Mukio, what did you wish for? I hope the person I love has a safe and smooth life. My eyes wavered, but Chen Mukio had no intention of making him feel awkward. She proactively changed the subject. Don't you have any wishes? Didn't you used to be the person who loved making wishes on shooting stars the most? Like you said, that was a matter of the past. He had long ceased to be the guy he used to be. Living through 2 lifetimes made him realize that making wishes is the most useless thing in the world. In his past life, he wished that Chen Mukio would love him. But even up until his death, he could never get her love. Later on, he wished to never meet Chen Mukio again and never be entangled with her anymore. As a result, not only did they meet again, but he also almost lost his life because of her, leaving him with no peace in this lifetime. So what's the point of making wishes? Everything always goes in the complete opposite direction. The two of them chatted about everything under the sun for a long time. When the night grew late and they had to head back, Chen Muqiu finally asked the question buried deep in her heart. Gufeng, can we still be friends? 3639, I took a glance at her and calmly said, if you want. Then I have no objections. But it probably won't make much of a difference anyway. Who knows, I might be stuck here for the rest of my life. Hearing this, Chen Muqiu immediately blurted out, do you regret it? Regret what? For a moment, I didn't understand the implication in her words, so I spoke up to ask her back. Chen Muqiu also gave her explanation, volunteering to be transferred here. I hope you achieve success soon, for our country, and also for yourself. I will. The two bid farewell to each other under the starry sky. From then on, Chen Muqiu returned to the military region of northern Shanxi and completely vanished from my life. She knew his location, but she couldn't come to see him. He couldn't get in, nor could he ever turn back. Many years later, the news about the successful development of the national missile weapon spread to every street and alley. My picture and name appeared on the front page of major newspapers and were broadcast repeatedly on television. Chen Muqiu looked at the awe-inspiring, majestic man on that screen, as if seeing his appearance when they first met. That person, in the end, still lived the kind of life he had always wanted, shattering his previous life entirely to be reborn from the ashes.